Chapter 43:70. Lin Feng looked at these people. There were always some people in this world who liked to look for trouble. Of course, Lin Feng didn't care about those people. Lan Yingying was more worried. Lan Yingying had heard that a cultivator had recognized Wang Mingsong's identity. Therefore, she knew that these people were not to be trifled with. Although Lan Yingying was quite powerful, if she offended these people, there would be endless trouble. If she could resolve the grudge between them, Lan Yingying would try her best to do so. She did not want to fight to the death. Hey, aren't you a pauper? Are you waiting for me here? Are you here to beg for money? Call me Grandpa, and I can reward you with a few immortal stones. Lin Feng was still as arrogant as ever. Lan Yingying felt like crying when she heard Lin Feng's words. Lin Feng was so arrogant. It would be strange if he would just let it go. If Lin Feng had a group of people following him, Lin Feng would be a typical thug. Of course, Lin Feng might be a little different from a typical thug. He would not take the initiative to provoke others. If others dared to provoke Lin Feng, then Lin Feng would return the favor tenfold, or even 100-fold. After spending some time with Lin Feng, Lan Yingying had a better understanding of Lin Feng's character. The conflict here, it had attracted a lot of people. Moreover, they were outside the black market. People were coming and going. It was very lively. Therefore, there was a conflict here. There were many people who were watching the show. Even the people from the Wantong Trading Company were watching the show. Who's that guy? How dare he humiliate Wang Mingsong like that? Wang Mingsong is not a good guy. He's ruthless and has done all kinds of bad things. Anyone who dares to offend Wang Mingsong will not have a good ending. I heard that the guy is not simple. Not long ago, he competed with Wang Mingsong for a 5-colored immortal robe. That guy is very rich. He spent 20 million immortal stones to buy the 5-colored immortal robe. He even called Wang Mingsong a pauper. F***CK. He's too daring. But just thinking about this scene makes me feel quite excited. Someone should teach Wang Mingsong a lesson. A strong dragon cannot defeat a snake in its old haunts. That guy might have an extraordinary identity, but this is not his territory. Wang Mingsong's brother-in-law is a heaven immortal, Dongfang. Wang Mingsong's sister is just a concubine of Dongfang. Why would Dongfang care about a second generation like Wang Mingsong? The cultivators in the area began discussing the matter. Obviously, most people thought that Lin Feng was going to be in trouble this time. Perhaps the beautiful woman by Lin Feng's side would fall into Wang Mingsong's hands. Wang Mingsong had abducted many women. He had even abducted the bride at someone's wedding. The bride had been violated. The other party did not dare to take revenge. When they thought about how a pure and beautiful woman like Lan Yingying might suffer such a miserable fate, many of them could not help but shake their heads. They felt sorry for Lan Yingying. Kid, you're about to die. How dare you act so arrogantly in front of me? You really don't know how to spell the word death. When we were in the black market, I didn't do anything to you because of the black market's rules. But here, no one can stop me anymore. I'm looking forward to you wagging your tail and begging me for mercy like a dog. I'm looking forward to seeing you beg me to spare your life. Do it. Capture him alive for this young master. Wang Mingsong waved his hand. The guards behind him immediately pounced on Lin Feng like wolves and tigers. There were even a few subimmortal elites among them. Lan Yingying gritted her teeth as she faced so many elites. It seemed like she would have to use the stone wheel, or else it would be impossible for her to deal with so many elites. At that moment, Lin Feng grabbed Lan Yingying's wrist. Then he turned to look at Lan Yingying and said, "We're just dealing with a bunch of nobodies. Just stay here and watch." When they heard Lin Feng describe them as nobodies, they were furious. The guards could not help but feel furious. When they attacked later, they might not be able to kill Lin Feng directly. However, they would have no problem breaking a few bones in Lin Feng's body. Lan Yingying looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. Lin Feng actually said that this group of strong cultivators were a bunch of cats and dogs. Was Lin Feng bragging again? However, Lan Yingying suddenly thought of something. Every time Lin Feng bragged about his strength, he had done it without a hitch. In other people's eyes, Lin Feng seemed to be bragging. However, in reality, Lin Feng was just talking about something ordinary. Just like this time. Was Lin Feng also talking about something ordinary? However, Lin Feng's cultivation level was not high, right? Many thoughts flashed through Lan Yingying's mind. She felt like she was at the mercy of gods and devils. She stood where she was. She did not move. Instead, she watched as Lin Feng walked toward a group of cultivators. "Kneel." At that moment, Lin Feng suddenly shouted coldly. Then, an extremely terrifying aura emanated from Lin Feng's body. When they sensed the aura emanating from Lin Feng's body, many people's expressions changed drastically. Lin Feng was like a young saint emperor who had descended to the world. He was so powerful. He was so terrifying. The aura on his body made people have an impulse to prostrate themselves in worship. Thump, thump. In the next moment, everyone saw that the cultivators who had surrounded Lin Feng could not withstand the terrifying aura emanating from Lin Feng's body. One by one, they knelt on the ground. Even the few subimmortal cultivators knelt on the ground one after another. "Oh my God, what am I seeing?" That kid made so many elites kneel on the ground with his aura alone. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is really unbelievable. What is that kid's cultivation level? How can he be so terrifying? He's like a young, immortal king who has descended to the world. I can't imagine how terrifying he is. When the surrounding cultivators saw this scene, they all cried out in alarm. Lin Feng's strength deeply shocked everyone present. Everyone's hearts seemed to have been set off by monstrous waves. Chapter 43:71. Heavens! I can't believe he's so powerful. Lan Yingying looked at Lin Feng in shock. She had always thought that Lin Feng was just an ordinary cultivator. It was no wonder she thought that way. It was mainly because Lin Feng's dantian had been damaged, and his dermic powers were dormant. Lan Yingying sensed that Lin Feng's dermic powers were not strong. That was why she thought Lin Feng was just an ordinary cultivator. At this very moment, Lan Yingying was deeply shocked when she saw how powerful Lin Feng was. This was a very normal thing. Could he be the mysterious man from back then? Lan Yingying suddenly thought of the mysterious man who had appeared when they kidnapped the transportation team. If it was not for that mysterious man, they might have been annihilated. She had only managed to kill the black and white devils because of that mysterious man. In the end, they had robbed the transportation team of immortal origin stones. Now that she thought about it, that man, it seemed like he might be Lin Feng. "Now it's your turn." Lin Feng looked at Wang Mingsong indifferently. He walked toward Wang Mingsong step by step. Wang Mingsong and the woman with the aura of a prostitute were so scared that they were trembling. Wang Mingsong knew he had bitten off more than he could chew. However, when he thought about the person behind him, Wang Mingsong's guts grew. He said, "Brat, let me tell you something. My brother-in-law is Dongfang. He, a heavenly immortal. If you dare lay a finger on me, My brother-in-law won't let you get away with it. Lin Feng pursed his lips and said, Is that so? I'm not afraid of being threatened. Bastard, kneel before me. As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful aura surged toward Wang Mingsong and the woman. Thump, thump. The two of them knelt on the ground. How could Wang Mingsong accept this? He was kneeling in front of someone else, in front of everyone. He had lost all his dignity. Wang Mingsong roared viciously. Brat, how dare you humiliate me like this? You're dead meat. You're dead meat. My brother-in-law won't let you get away with it. Lin Feng sneered. He had seen Dongfang He before. He was indeed a terrifying existence, an expert of the celestial immortal level. However, Lin Feng remembered that the devil world sinner's blood had fought with Dongfang He after flying up from the ascension pool. The sinner's blood of the devil world was even more powerful. Although Dongfang He was also a celestial immortal realm expert, he was still a celestial immortal realm expert. However, he was still at the first firmament of the celestial immortal realm. He was no match for the sinner of the devil world. The sinner from the devil world attacked ferociously, wanting to kill Dongfang He. Lin Feng still remembered when he escaped from the ascension pool. Dongfang He was already injured, although that sinner of the devil world failed to kill Dongfang He in the end. But it was definitely a heavy blow to Dongfang He. Once an expert of his level was seriously injured, it would usually affect his foundation. He needed to treat it with caution. Lin Feng guessed that Dongfang He was currently recuperating. Therefore, how could Dongfang He be in the mood to care about Wang Mingsong? And when Dongfang He was in seclusion, presumably no one would dare to disturb Dongfang He. Lin Feng sneered as he looked at Wang Mingsong and said, Remember, no matter how awesome someone else is, it's also someone else's ability. It has nothing to do with you at all. Maybe you think I won't dare to kill you, but we can try. Lin Feng flicked his finger. Buffed, a tearing sound was suddenly heard. One of Wang Mingsong's ears was directly chopped off. Ah! Wang Mingsong instantly let out a miserable cry. Spare me! Spare me! Don't kill me! Wang Mingsong loudly begged for mercy. Although Wang Mingsong was a spoiled brat, this guy still had some eyesight. He realized Lin Feng really dared to kill him. Now, he was scared out of his wits. Eldest grandson, call me Grandpa. I'll let you go. Lin Feng pursed his lips and said. Many people laughed bitterly. Everybody looked at Lin Feng in awe and veneration. A ferocious dragon would not cross the river. Although Lin Feng was young, his strength was extremely powerful. Moreover, he was so arrogant. He must have something to rely on. Grandpa, I was wrong. You're a great man, and don't hold a grudge against me. Spare me, your eldest grandson. Wang Mingsong said with an apologetic smile. In fact, he was cursing Lin Feng in his heart. He wanted to eat Lin Feng's flesh and drink Lin Feng's blood. Get lost, Lin Feng said coldly. The powerful aura that enveloped heaven and earth dissipated. The group of people did not dare to stay any longer. They got up from the ground and immediately fled into the distance. Lin Feng, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. However, after all, this is the other party's territory. If Dongfang He really attacks us, I'm afraid we won't be able to fight against these people. Lan Yingying said worriedly. Lin Feng smiled and said, Don't worry, everything is under my control. Okay. Lan Yingying nodded. Now, she seemed to have an inexplicable sense of trust toward Lin Feng. No matter what Lin Feng said, she believed in him. Lin Feng and Lan Yingying left. Lin Feng did not notice that on the top floor of Wantong trading firm in the distance, Meng Bingyan had a panoramic view of everything that had happened. Elder Sun said, "This Lin Feng doesn't use his brain when he does things. He offended Wang Mingsong. Does he think he can get out of here alive?" Meng Bingyan said, "No, he's a terrifying person. He has everything planned out." "What do you mean, my lord?" Elder Sun looked at Meng Bingyan in confusion. Meng Bingyan looked up and said, "As far as I know, Dongfang he was severely injured in the battle with the sinner's blood from the devil realm. Not many people know about this. Dongfang he is now in seclusion to heal his injuries. He doesn't have the time to care about Wang Mingsong." Lin Feng knew about the relationship between Wang Mingsong and Dongfang. Yet he still dared to deal with Wang Mingsong. I'm guessing that Lin Feng already knows about Dongfang his injuries. As for Wang Mingsong's family, the strongest cultivator is only at the human immortal realm. Cultivators at that level can't do anything to Lin Feng. After hearing Meng Bingyan's words, Elder Sun could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. He said, "If what you said is true, then this Lin Feng is really a terrifying person." At that moment, a red-crowned crane flew in from the sky. The red-crowned crane carried a letter. When he saw the red-crowned crane, Elder Sun said in surprise, "The higher-ups actually sent the news so quickly. It seems like they value Lin Feng a lot." 4 hours ago, Meng Bingyan had reported some information about Lin Feng to the higher-ups through the sacrificial ritual. Then, Meng Bingyan began to wait for the news. She wanted to know Lin Feng's specific identity and what the higher-ups planned to do with Lin Feng. 2 hours later, the higher-ups sent a red-crowned crane to deliver the letter. The efficiency was indeed unbelievably fast. Meng Bingyan guessed that the higher-ups must have used the great sky-moving array to allow the red-crowned crane to travel through the endless void and quickly fly here. Meng Bingyan took down the letter. At this time, the red-crowned crane looked at Elder Sun and said, "Elder Sun, this is a top secret. You can leave now." "Yes." Elder Sun's heart trembled slightly as he hurriedly replied, and left. Hearing the red-crowned crane's words, Meng Bingyan was also very shocked. However, she was also someone who was used to seeing big waves. Thus, on the surface, she was still able to appear relatively calm. Meng Bingyan opened the letter. When he saw the line of words on the letter, Meng Bingyan's pupils, suddenly they shrank. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 43:72. He's actually that person's son. Meng Bingyan couldn't help but take a deep breath. Her face was filled with shock. That person. He was like a legend. Back then, he had risen like a comet. If it weren't for some unforeseen circumstances, no one would have known how powerful that man would become. Now, that person's son had appeared. You'll be the one to recruit him into slaughtering heaven's pavilion. 100 years ago, I recruited his father into slaughtering heaven's pavilion. Meng Bingyan said, "Yes, I have to say that sometimes there is a mysterious connection between people." The crane said. Meng Bingyan muttered to herself and asked, "When will you bring him to see the pavilion master? I'm sure the pavilion master wants to see him. After all, he and the pavilion master are." Meng Bingyan didn't finish her sentence. She didn't need to say it out loud. The crane understood. In slaughtering heaven's pavilion, the crane's status was one level higher than hers. It depends on the pavilion master. Perhaps we'll be able to meet him soon, or perhaps we'll never meet him. Everything depends on his luck and fortune. The crane said. "Yes," Meng Bingyan said. She muttered to herself for a moment and continued, "However, I feel that he's extraordinary. He's not inferior to his father. His father is someone who's blessed by fate. Most of this era's luck is concentrated on his father. Unfortunately, something happened to his father. His current situation isn't ideal," the crane sighed. "However, after his father's body changed. Half of the luck was transferred to him, said Lin Feng. Coupled with his own luck, he's indeed extraordinary. However, no one knows how strong he'll become in the future. Indeed, what will happen in the future? No one knows. No one can predict it. Meng Bingyan said. She thought of that man from 100 years ago. She couldn't help but feel that it was a pity. Do you plan to go and see him? Meng Bingyan asked. Of course. The crane said. It flapped its wings. Then it disappeared without a trace. Lin Feng and Lan Yingying walked towards their residence. Suddenly, Lin Feng sensed that his blood was moving much faster than before. Was there danger? No, it didn't seem dangerous at all. But even if it wasn't dangerous, there should also be experts spying on me in the dark. Lin Feng's mind trembled slightly to be able to cause his bloodline to actively produce sudden impulse. The other party was definitely extremely powerful. Lin Feng searched with his divine sense, but found nothing. I can't find the whereabouts of this person. What a powerful technique. What level is this expert at? However, this person did not show any malice towards me. It seems that he is not an enemy. Lin Feng took a deep breath. What's wrong? Why do you have such an ugly expression? Lan Yingying was a very observant woman. When she saw the change in Lin Feng's expression, she could not help but ask in confusion. Lin Feng smiled and said, It's fine. You don't have to worry. After knowing that the other party had no hostility, Lin Feng relaxed a lot. Compared to Heaven Destroyer, this kid isn't any weaker. If the Pavilion Lord saw him, he will definitely be extremely happy. The immortal crane concealed itself in the void. It did not show itself and left immediately. He returned to his residence. Lin Feng began to set up some formations. This was to prevent Wang Mingsong's people from causing trouble. Lin Feng knew that Dongfang, he would not attack him. However, he did not know how powerful the experts from Wang Mingsong's family were. Therefore, he had to be on guard. The formations that Lin Feng set up were extremely powerful. Even if an Earth Immortal were to come, he would lose a layer of skin. The rest of the people returned one after another. However, to Lin Feng's surprise, Wang Mingsong did not cause trouble for him. He did not know why. The third sect leader and the others did not know what had happened outside the black market. Lin Feng did not ask Lan Yingying to tell them. The next day, the people from the Wantong Trading Company came to pick up Lin Feng and bring him to the Wantong Trading Company. Yingying, do you want to come with me? Lin Feng asked Lan Yingying. Sure. Lan Yingying immediately agreed to Lin Feng's invitation. When she heard it, she was delighted. Lin Feng went out to bring her along. It seemed that he did not treat her as an outsider. However, she thought about how she had agreed so quickly. Was she being too unreserved? Let's go, Lin Feng said. He took the lead and walked out. There was a beast carriage outside. Lin Feng waited for Lan Yingying to come out. After Lan Yingying came out, Lin Feng helped her into the beast carriage. Then, Lin Feng boarded the beast carriage as well. The first sect leader seems to be quite close to Lin Feng. Is she interested in Lin Feng? Lin Feng is so handsome. Any woman will like him. Maybe the first sect leader is interested in him. Lin Feng is so lucky. It seems like he's going to win the girl's heart. The people from Skyview Village began to gossip after Lin Feng, and Lan Yingying left. Where are we going? In the beast carriage, Lan Yingying looked at Lin Feng and asked curiously, Wantong Trading Company. Lin Feng said, Why are we going to Wantong Trading Company? Lan Yingying asked curiously. Meng Bingyan asked me to help her identify a few stones. I'm going there to see what's going on. Lin Feng said, I see. Lan Yingying nodded. Soon, They arrived at Wan Tong Trading Company. Then they saw Meng Bingyin. Lin Gongzi, please rest for a while. I've already asked Elder Sun to get the things you need. When Elder Sun comes, we'll go to Withered Sky Pavilion together. There will be some other people there as well. Meng Bingyin said. Lin Feng asked, "What's wrong? Is there anything else you want to do here?" Meng Bingyin said with a smile, "Identifying the stones is only one of the activities. This is a small gathering. I'm afraid there will be some good stuff. I'm sure Lin Gongzi will be very interested." "Oh, is that so?" Lin Feng was surprised. The people who could participate in this small gathering that Meng Bingyin mentioned must be very important. Therefore, there might be a lot of good stuff coming up. Lin Feng could not help but look forward to it. Soon, Elder Sun arrived. "My lord, everything is ready," Elder Sun said. Then, he handed a storage ring to Meng Bingyin. Meng Bingyin nodded. Elder Sun retreated. Meng Bingyin handed the storage ring to Lin Feng and said, "The pills that Lin Gongzi needs are all inside. Also, we've already contacted a top-notch alchemist. However, that alchemist is refining pills now. Therefore, we have to wait for him to come out of seclusion to know if that top-notch alchemist has agreed to help you refine pills." Chapter 4373. "No problem. Thank you for your help," Lin Feng said. "Lin Gongzi, don't be so courteous. Let's head to the Withered Sky Pavilion now," Meng Bingyin said. "All right." Lin Feng nodded. Then they got on a beast carriage and headed to the Withered Sky Pavilion. The Withered Sky Pavilion was bustling with people coming and going. It was the largest and most luxurious restaurant in Withered Sky City. Beautiful women surrounded it. If one was interested, one could find any kind of woman here. It was a good place to gather and relax. Of course, the women here only sold their skills and not their bodies, unless one had the ability to deal with those women in private, or else, no matter how many immortal stones, the other party would probably not agree to it. The Withered Sky Pavilion had always respected the true thoughts of those beautiful women. It was because of this. That was why the business of the Withered Sky Pavilion was so good. It was also very famous in the surrounding ancient cities. There were many extremely beautiful women here. If they lacked immortal stones, they would often come here to apply for a job. Lin Feng and the other two arrived at the Withered Sky Pavilion. They were led to the second floor by the servant girl. The hall on the first floor was filled with cultivators. It was very crowded. TSK. This girl is not bad. She's pure enough. I like her." Suddenly, a young man reached out to grab Lan Yingying. "Do you have a death wish?" Lin Feng's eyes turned cold. He raised his right hand and slashed out a sword chi. Poof! The young man's arm was chopped off. Fresh blood spurted out. Ah! Incomparably shrill screams could not help but be heard. My arm. You know who I am? How dare you chop off my arm? You have a death wish. You have a death wish." The young man roared in pain. His eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at Lin Feng. Because of this sudden bloody scene, the entire hall fell silent. "Bastard, you dare to touch anyone. You have a death wish. I'll chop off one of your arms. Consider yourself lucky," Lin Feng said indifferently. Many people could not help but point at him. Lin Feng was really overbearing. Crippling someone with a single move was truly domineering. What happened? At this moment, a commotion broke out. Next, more than 20 cultivators rushed over. The leader was dressed in a golden robe and looked very handsome. "It's the 7th young master of Skywither City, Xian." Suddenly, someone said. The golden-robed cultivator was called Xian. the seventh son of Heavenly Wither City's city lord, Chu Yunfei. He was also her youngest son. He was talented and powerful. The cultivator called Xian saw the one-armed cultivator. His expression changed slightly. "Brother Qi, what happened to your arm?" Xian asked. "It's him. He was the one who cut off my arm. Brother Chu, avenge me. I want this brat to die a horrible death." The one-armed cultivator pointed at Lin Feng. Xian's gaze darkened as he looked at Lin Feng. He also saw Meng Bingyan beside Lin Feng. "Fairy Meng, is this person with you?" Xian asked. "Yes." Meng Bingyan said. "This person cut off Qi Zimu's arm. Qi Zimu is the great-great-grandson of the Heavenly Court's eight-eye Heavenly Lord. There must be an explanation for today's matter. Otherwise, I won't be able to explain myself." Xian said in a deep voice. After hearing the identity of the one-armed cultivator, many people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The eight-eye Heavenly Lord was one of the 18 Heavenly Lords under the Heavenly Emperor. He had an army of tens of millions of cultivators under him. He was powerful. No one dared to provoke him. As the great-great-great-grandson of the eight-eye Heavenly Lord, Qi Zimu's status was naturally incomparably respected. Now, one of his arms was cut off. How could this grudge not be avenged? Lin Feng signaled Meng Bingyan not to speak. He looked at Xian and asked, "What? You want to avenge him? I can spare your life on account of Fairy Meng, but you have to cut off both your arms." Xian said with an indifferent expression. The surrounding people looked at Lin Feng with pity. Lin Feng had gotten himself into big trouble. It was the best outcome. It was as if he was asking for forgiveness by cutting off both his arms. "Who do you think you are? Are you worthy of saying such words to me?" Lin Feng said with a sidelong glance at Xian. When Lin Feng said that, Lin Feng's expression changed. The surrounding instantly became silent. Everyone looked at Lin Feng with disbelief. Lin Feng, a foreign cultivator. He actually said, "Who do you think you are to the son of Sky Wither City's city lord, Xian?" Everyone had seen arrogant people before. They had seen arrogant people before. However, they had never seen someone as arrogant as Lin Feng. Sky Wither City. This was the territory of Xian's family. Lin Feng was still so arrogant. Really? Did he not know how to write the word death? That kid is too pretentious. I'm afraid he chose the wrong person to be pretentious to today. Yeah, that kid is definitely done for this time. It won't be as simple as cutting off both his arms. The surrounding cultivators started discussing. This guy is really a troublemaker. Meng Bingyan couldn't help but smile bitterly. She had rarely seen Lin Feng's domineering attitude in her life. Meng Bingyan couldn't help but think of Lin Beitian. Back in the days, Lin Beitian was much more introverted than Lin Feng. Of course, although they were father and son, they weren't the same person. Their personalities were naturally different. Lan Yingying, who was at the side, started to worry. Lin Feng had just cut off someone's arm because of her. Now, she saw that Lin Feng had provoked such a powerful person. Lan Yingying was very nervous. She was worried that Lin Feng would be in danger. This is interesting. This is the first time I've seen someone so arrogant in front of me. It seems like some people are really shameless. Xian's face darkened. He was a high and mighty person. Now he was being humiliated by Lin Feng. He was naturally furious. Lin Feng sneered. "I'm afraid you don't know what you're capable of. You're just relying on your family's power to strut around outside. If you don't have your family's power, what do you think you are? Speaking of which, even your family is nothing in my eyes. Compared to my family, you're too weak." When Lin Feng said that, the surrounding people were shocked. Could this pretentious guy have an extremely terrifying family behind him? Since he said that, perhaps he really did have an extremely terrifying family behind him. Otherwise, why would he dare to be so arrogant in Tianwu City? Which faction are you from? Xian suppressed the anger in his heart and asked. Although he couldn't wait to tear Lin Feng apart, he was still afraid of the faction that Lin Feng mentioned. In this world, there were indeed some factions that couldn't be offended. You don't deserve to know, Lin Feng said indifferently. Chapter 4374. That guy is too arrogant. He actually dared to look down on Xian like that. I think he must be telling the truth. He must be a cultivator from an extremely terrifying clan. Otherwise, how could he be so arrogant? That's right. I wonder which power is behind him. He doesn't even put Xian in his eyes. Could it be the clan of the most ancient titled god? Although some titled god clans keep a low profile, they are incomparably terrifying. Even the heavenly court is extremely fearful of them. The surrounding cultivators discussed animatedly. As for Xian, his heart was burning with rage. He had always been the moon surrounded by stars, a high and mighty existence. When had he ever been looked down on like this? Now, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he was repeatedly looked down on and humiliated by this person in front of him. How could Xian endure such vexation? He sneered and said, "You said that I use my clan's power to strut around outside. Aren't you the same? Your arrogance comes from your clan. If you didn't have your clan's support, would you dare to behave atrociously in Withering Sky City?" When the crowd heard Xian's words, they couldn't help but praise Xian's quick thinking. He actually returned Lin Feng's mocking words back to Lin Feng. "Hee, whatever you say." Lin Feng sneered. However, his tone wasn't as unyielding as before. The crowd couldn't help but mutter in their hearts. Lin Feng was also somewhat speechless. Xian became even more pleased with himself. He sneered and said, "Do you dare to make a bet with me?" "Bet on what?" Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at Xian. "You and I will fight. If you lose, you will cripple one of your arms. However, this is a confrontation between the younger generation. It has nothing to do with the older generation of the clan. Even if you lose, you can't go to the clan and ask the older generation experts to take revenge." Xian said. Many people felt that Xian was being too considerate because, in their opinion, the reason why Lin Feng was so arrogant was because the power behind him might be even stronger than the Chu clan. That was why he was so arrogant. In reality, Lin Feng's strength was far inferior to Xian's. However, if the two sides set a rule, the older generation experts would not be allowed to interfere. Then Lin Feng would be defeated. He couldn't ask the experts of the older generation to help either. If Lin Feng had really invited some strong cultivators of the older generation to avenge him, it would have been much easier. In that case, at that time, not only would Lin Feng be humiliated, Lin Feng's clan would also become a laughingstock to the entire world. If Lin Feng didn't agree to this duel, then that meant that Lin Feng was afraid. Lin Feng didn't care. It would definitely be a huge blow. Perhaps it would break Lin Feng's Tao heart. So Xian's action was simply killing two birds with one stone. Everyone looked at Lin Feng. He didn't know if Lin Feng would agree. Actually, Lin Feng was already overjoyed in his heart. Lin Feng's family was indeed extraordinary, whether it was Lin Qi's bloodline or the Sovereign Emperor clan. They were incomparably glorious back then, but the key was that they had already declined. Lin Feng was just bragging to fool Xian just now, but Xian believed him. It wasn't just Xian who believed him. Everyone else believed him. If they didn't know Lin Feng's background beforehand, Meng Binyan would have believed him. She would have been fooled by Lin Feng into believing that Lin Feng came from a top power, The reason why Lin Feng bragged like this was because he wanted to let the experts of the older generation behind Xian know he came from a big power. You old fogies better not attack yours truly, or else the experts of the older generation behind me will also attack. At that time, your family's juniors won't have a good ending. The experts of the older generation between the major powers wouldn't brazenly attack the other party's juniors. Because if the experts of the older generation killed the other party's juniors, the other party's juniors couldn't resist at all. They would definitely die. If both sides did this, then the juniors of both sides would definitely die. So the experts of the older generation wouldn't attack the juniors. This was an unwritten rule in the cultivation world. Of course, there was a prerequisite. If the power behind him was strong enough, then it would have a deterrent effect. If the other party knew that Lin Feng was a rogue cultivator, then there wouldn't be this consideration. Now, Lin Feng's plan could be considered to be quite successful. Under his exaggeration, everyone else believed that he came from a top power, and Xian was also afraid of the experts behind Lin Feng. So he made an agreement with Lin Feng. If Lin Feng lost, he couldn't find the experts of the older generation to take revenge. Lin Feng said indifferently, "Do you think I'm a piece of trash like you? If I lose, I still have to find the experts of the older generation to take revenge. I still understand the rules of the cultivation world and will abide by them. Only a piece of trash like you would think of finding the experts of the older generation to take revenge." Hearing Lin Feng call him a piece of trash left and right, Xian couldn't wait to punch Lin Feng to death. He said coldly, "You're avoiding the topic. Do you not dare to accept my challenge?" "Who doesn't dare? I'm just worried that if I'm not careful, half of your body will be paralyzed," Lin Feng said indifferently. "Paralyzed your sister?" Xian couldn't help but curse. Talking to Lin Feng was simply infuriating. Lin Feng said, "If you lose, what can you lose to me? What do you want?" Xian asked, "How about this? Give me your storage ring." "How about it?" Lin Feng said with a smile. The corner of Xian's mouth twitched slightly. The storage ring was all he had. Lin Feng was asking for too much. However, when he thought about how he had already broken through to the loose immortal realm, and Lin Feng was only a little over 100 years old, his cultivation shouldn't be particularly strong. Thus, he calmed down. He said with a cold smile, "All right, if you can beat me, I'll give you my storage ring." Just as Xian finished speaking, Lin Feng's fist came smashing over. "What's going on?" "I haven't said start yet." Xian was dumbfounded. In the next moment, bang! Lin Feng's powerful fist smashed into Xian's face. Xian's nose was instantly smashed. Blood immediately spurted out. As for Xian, he directly fell to the ground. He only felt the world spinning. Then he fainted. Cough, cough. "Too weak. You can't even take a punch from me. I really shouldn't have made a move. Fighting such a piece of trash is simply beneath my dignity." Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. The surrounding cultivators looked at Lin Feng speechlessly. "Brother, you ambushed him. You ambushed Xian and knocked him out with a punch. You still have the nerve to brag here. You're so shameless that you're invincible in this world." Author's note, August 1st, looking for monthly votes. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 4375. TSK. I won a storage ring with one punch. I am indeed a genius, said Lin Feng, clicking his tongue. However, it sounded like old Wang was praising himself. He walked towards the unconscious Xian. He wanted to take Xian's storage ring. "Brat, you cheated. This round doesn't count. You can't take our young master's storage ring." A cultivator stood out and stopped Lin Feng. "Get lost." Lin Feng slapped out and sent the guard flying. Lin Feng then took Xian's storage ring. No matter what, this guy is the son of the withered Sky City's mayor. There should be many good things in his storage ring. I'm rich now. Lin Feng fiddled with Xian's storage ring, a smile appearing on his face. Many people were speechless. He even dared to steal the storage ring of the mayor's son. How audacious. Let's go. Lin Feng looked at Meng Bingyan and said. Meng Bingyan nodded. Lin Feng, Meng Bingyan, and Lan Yingying were led upstairs by the maid. Damn, that brat is too thick-skinned. He is too shameless. Xian lost so miserably. Xian broke through to the scattered immortal realm 3 months ago. He is so strong. He didn't even have a chance to fight back. How unlucky. That's right. That brat is using the word shameless to the extreme. He. I wonder what Xian's expression will be when he wakes up. He'll probably go crazy then, right? Many people started discussing. Indeed, at that time, Xian would definitely go crazy. Today was too embarrassing. What kind of person was Xian? He was defeated in such a way. He didn't even have a chance to fight back. No matter who it was such a thing happened to, they would probably be quite depressed and aggrieved, not to mention Xian's extraordinary status. However, many people soon revealed gloating expressions. It was interesting to see the mayor's son make a fool of himself. Lin Feng and the other two arrived at a private room on the 7th floor. When they came here, more than 10 cultivators were already seated in the private room. Among the cultivators inside, there were both men and women. Their lifespans were not particularly long. Their lifespans were mostly between 30,000 years and 100,000 years. Compared to their long lifespans, they were still alive. These people were actually still very young. Of course, Lin Feng was even younger. Lin Feng was only a little over 100 years old. They watched as Meng Bingyan led the two into the private room. Everyone stood up to greet Meng Bingyan. As for Lin Feng and Lan Yingying, they were ignored by everyone. Although Lan Yingying's cultivation was not weak, there was still a big gap between her and the people present. These people didn't just come from noble backgrounds. Furthermore, he was extremely powerful. After the great change of the world, everyone's cultivation base advanced by leaps and bounds, all of them breaking through to the loose immortal realm. As for Lin Feng, these people treated Lin Feng as if he didn't exist. Lin Feng was a little too young. Moreover, he didn't even seem to have the aura of a subimmortal. Therefore, these people felt that Lin Feng was just a small character. Meng Bingyan also greeted everyone. Then, she arranged for Lin Feng and Lan Yingying to sit next to her. Not long after, another person arrived. After greeting each other, the other party found a place to sit down. Then, 5 cultivators came one after another. At this moment, another person entered the private room. The person in the lead was a very handsome young master. Lin Feng actually knew the person behind him. It was none other than Chu Xian, who was knocked out by Lin Feng with a punch. It seemed that this guy had woken up. However, his nose was now wrapped in gauze. It looked a little funny. After seeing Lin Feng, the corners of Chu Xian's mouth twitched violently. Then, he suddenly clenched his fists. He quickly walked toward Lin Feng and said angrily, "Brat, how dare you trick me, you despicable and shameless fellow? You've brought shame to the family behind you. Your actions are simply discrediting your ancestors." Everyone was a little confused when they saw the angry Chu Xian. They didn't know what had happened. This caused Chu Xian to grit his teeth when he saw Lin Feng. However, from Chu Xian's words, they knew the cultivator that everyone looked down on. He seemed to have an extraordinary background. But so what? Which one of the people present didn't come from a big family or a big power, no matter how powerful the family behind them was? However, if their cultivation wasn't strong enough, they would still be looked down upon by these prodigies. Those trash from big families could only show off in front of ordinary cultivators. Let them show off in front of the prodigies from other big forces. Give them 10 times the courage. They didn't dare to. Lin Feng said, "A win is a win. A loss is a loss. Since you've lost, you have to admit defeat. No one will remember the process. Everyone will only remember the loser. As a loser, you came to find trouble with me. I'm not the one who embarrassed my ancestors. You're the one who embarrassed your ancestors. Kid, you're really eloquent. Even if you have a glib tongue today, I won't let you off." Chu Xian's voice was cold. He was about to punch Lin Feng. "Old Seven, stop at this moment." Another young cultivator shouted in a deep voice. After hearing this cultivator's shout, Chu Xian stopped. It seemed that Chu Xian listened to this person. "Third brother, why did you stop me from teaching this kid a lesson?" Chu Xian asked. The young cultivator who spoke was the third son of Sky Wither City's city lord. His name was Chu Mo. He said indifferently, "This brother is right. A bet is a loss. Since you've already lost the battle between you two, you shouldn't seek revenge. Third brother, this guy sneak attacked me when I wasn't paying attention. If we fought head-on, I would crush him as easily as crushing an ant." Naturally, Chu Xian wasn't convinced. Hence, he said angrily, "Defeat. It's defeat. There's no reason. You can leave." Chu Mo said with an unquestionable tone. Chu Xian was still quite afraid of his third brother. He nodded with a gloomy face and didn't say anything else. Chu Mo looked at Lin Feng indifferently and said, "You've cut off one of Qi Zimu's arms. The Qi family won't let this go, so you're on your own." Hearing this, the others in the room were very surprised. Everyone couldn't help but mutter. This kid in front of them didn't seem very strong. Why did he do so many inconceivable things? He defeated Chu Xian and cut off Qi Zimu's arm. Everything that happened to Lin Feng seemed inconceivable. And these two things were actually done by Lin Feng. This made everyone extremely puzzled. They didn't know the specific process of these two things. Chapter 43:76. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't believe that Chu Mo would be so kind as to remind him of the Qi family. Chu Mo gave Lin Feng a feeling that there was a knife hidden in his smile. Although he looked gentle, Lin Feng felt that behind that gentleness, it was actually fangs. One mustn't be deceived by this person's gentle appearance. Otherwise, one would die miserably. Of course, Lin Feng wouldn't care about Chu Mo's motive for reminding him. No matter what his motive was, he'll deal with it as it comes. His fictional family had already intimidated these people easily. The older generation behind them wouldn't deal with him. Of course, the competition between the younger generation of the major forces, it was usually settled by the younger generation of the major forces themselves. Sometimes there would indeed be situations where the older generation experts of the other party would make a move. But this kind of thing was extremely rare. Moreover, even if the other party made a move, it was usually because of some special reasons. Moreover, even if they made a move, they wouldn't do it openly. They would definitely make a move secretly. If this kind of thing was made public, these two forces would completely fall out. Thank you for your reminder, Brother Chu. Lin Feng replied with a faint smile. Chu Mo looked at Lin Feng in a deep and meaningful way. Then he found a place to sit down with Chu Xian. Everyone is here. Before the trade fair begins, I've agreed to everyone's request. I've brought a few immortal source stones dug out from the Black Sand Devil prison for everyone to take a look. Meng Bingyin said with a smile. Black Sand Devil prison, Black Sand region's land of death. It was a dark world that stretched as far as the eye could see. The power of death pervaded it. It was rumored. Every once in a while, some extremely eerie and terrifying sounds would come out from the Black Sand Devil prison. The land of death in the undying world was obviously more terrifying than the land of death in the mortal world. Now, the land of death in the mortal world had changed. Some of the creatures in the land of death in the mortal world, they could already walk out of the land of death. But for now, the terrifying creatures in the land of death in the undying world, they were still unable to walk out of the land of death. It was unknown whether those creatures would walk out of the land of death in the future. Of course, not every land of death had immortal origin stones. However, the Black Sand Devilish Prison was one of the few death zones where one could dig out immortal origin stones. However, the Black Sand Devilish Prison was too dangerous. Cultivators risked their lives to dig for immortal origin stones. Almost all of them would die in there. Those who could bring out immortal origin stones alive were simply too few. Not even one immortal origin stone could be found after many years. Even if immortal origin stones were unearthed, they were also taken away by some major forces. Ordinary people would never be able to come into contact with it, even the younger generation of cultivators from the major sections. He also couldn't touch the immortal origin stones unearthed in the Black Sand Devilish Prison. At this moment, everyone heard Meng Bingyan say that she had brought back the immortal origin stones from the Black Sand Devil Prison. Everyone's faces couldn't help but reveal an expectant expression. Whoosh! With a wave of Meng Bingyan's hand, a bright light flashed. 3 immortal origin stones flew out. When immortal origin stones are placed in a storage ring, it can easily cause the energy to become chaotic. In the end, the space within the storage ring will be destroyed along with the immortal origin stones. Fairy actually used a storage ring to bring these immortal origin stones. Fairy's heart is really big. A prodigy couldn't help but sigh. Meng Bingyan smiled slightly and said, "Young master, you may not know. If it were other immortal origin stones, there would naturally be such considerations. However, the immortal origin stones unearthed from the land of death don't have such considerations. The stones outside the immortal origin stones unearthed from the land of death are very special. They can completely block the energy from spreading." That prodigy said, "So that's how it is. Thank you, Fairy, for your guidance." At this moment, everyone's gaze landed on the 3 immortal origin stones. These 3 immortal origin stones. The first one was a black stone that was about the height of a person. There were many special veins on it. Those veins were twisting and twisting. It was incomparably strange. Looking at it, it made people feel uneasy. The second immortal origin stone was shaped like a stone pillar. It was about 1 meter tall. There were many strange diagrams on it. Those diagrams couldn't be looked at for a long time, because if one looked at them for a long time, they would feel dizzy. The third immortal origin stone was shaped like a huge dragon that resided on the ground. There were veins on it. They looked like dragon veins. That immortal origin stone was about 7 or 8 meters long. It emitted a pressure that made people unable to help but feel suffocated. Lin Feng looked at the 3 immortal origin stones. His heart beat violently. These 3 immortal origin stones were not simple. Lin Feng felt these 3 immortal origin stones seemed to be even more complicated than the immortal origin stone that gave birth to a sacred spirit. It was hard to imagine what was inside these 3 immortal origin stones. However, Lin Feng felt these 3 immortal origin stones were extremely terrifying, while the others were carefully looking at the 3 immortal origin stones. Meng Bingyan looked at Lin Feng and asked, "Lin Gongzi, What do you think about cutting these 3 immortal origin stones? Lin Feng said, let's sell them. Sell them. Meng Bingyan could not help but frown slightly. The value of immortal origin stones excavated from the land of death was unimaginable. Probably no one would sell these immortal origin stones. Selling them is good. If Fairy wants to sell them, I can buy them at a high price. A prodigy immediately said after hearing Lin Feng's words. The others could not help but feel tempted. If Meng Bingyan really sold these 3 immortal origin stones, they were also very interested in buying these 3 immortal origin stones. Lin Feng did not plan to say much. However, he felt that Meng Bingyan was very friendly towards him. Therefore, Lin Feng said, I hope Fairy can consider it carefully. Meng Bingyan was an extremely intelligent woman. She could naturally tell. When Lin Feng said these words, his tone was especially heavy. It seemed Lin Feng strongly advised her not to cut these 3 immortal origin stones. In reality, Meng Bingyan had indeed planned to find an opportunity to cut these 3 immortal origin stones. She really wanted to see what could be cut out of these 3 immortal origin stones. However, after hearing Lin Feng's words, Meng Bingyan changed her mind. Although Meng Bingyan had never seen Lin Feng use the stone discerning technique, she still had a lot of faith in Lin Feng's stone discerning technique. The reason why she trusted Lin Feng so much, it was because Lin Feng was that man's son. He was that family's heir. Okay, I'll do as Lin Gongzi said, and sell these 3 immortal origin stones. Meng Bingyan said. After hearing Meng Bingyan's words, the group of people immediately became excited. Everyone wanted to buy these 3 immortal origin stones. At this moment, Meng Bingyan continued, however, I won't sell these 3 immortal origin stones privately. Instead, I'll put them up for auction. If you're interested, you can bid at the auction. At that time, the highest bidder will win. Chapter 4377. The group of people couldn't help but feel depressed. If the immortal origin stones were to be auctioned, when the time came, the price of immortal origin stones, it would also greatly increase. It would definitely be several times more expensive than buying it privately. However, these 3 immortal origin stones belong to Meng Bingyan. Therefore, Meng Bingyan had the final say on how to deal with them. No one else had the right to interfere. Meng Bingyan immediately kept the 3 immortal origin stones. Now, let's start the trade. Chu Imo said, all right. The others nodded. This kind of small trade fair had extremely high standards. Those who were able to participate, their statuses were extremely noble. Therefore, the items that everyone took out were usually the real good stuff. A genius said, I have a piece of St. Tao immortal iron here that can be used to forge immortal tools. Of course, if you don't want to forge immortal tools, you can melt it and merge it into your life source magic treasure. That way, you can greatly increase the power of your life source magic treasure. As soon as the Sky Pride finished speaking, he took out an item. It was a fist-sized piece of cyan iron, or it should be the St. Tao immortal iron that he mentioned. This kind of material was extremely rare, especially after the immemorial era, when resources were scarce. It was hard to find materials to forge emperor weapons, let alone immortal tools. Many people were interested in this piece of St. Tao immortal iron. A genius asked, Brother, what do you want to exchange for? I want to exchange for 100 nourishing sun immortal pills. The genius said. Lin Feng had heard of purple sun immortal pills before. It was a very high-grade immortal pill that required more than 7,000 types of spiritual herbs to refine. It was said that it required more than 100 types of spiritual herbs to refine it. Purple sun immortal pills were priceless and could greatly increase a cultivator's soul force. However, Purple Sun immortal pills were too difficult to refine. Moreover, even if others had Purple Sun immortal pills, they wouldn't leak them out, because they would refine them themselves. A female cultivator in a red dress said, "Young Master Zhang, your Saint Tao immortal iron is indeed very precious. However, there is one thing that young Master Zhang should be clear about. Things are different now. Previously, it was extremely difficult to find materials to forge immortal tools. But ever since the great change of heaven and earth, the experts who had been in hibernation came out one after another. Coupled with the continuous appearance of various opportunities, the materials for forging fairy artifacts are no longer as rare as before. If this was before the great change in the world, it wouldn't be a problem for you to exchange this piece of Saint Tao immortal iron for 100 Purple Sun immortal pills. But now, exchanging for 100 Purple Sun immortal pills is asking for too much. This cultivator, surnamed Zhang, clearly left some room for negotiation when he proposed to exchange for 100 Violet Sun immortal pills. Fairy Hong Xia, are you interested in the Saintly Tao immortal metal? Of course. The female cultivator in the red dress nodded. She did not deny her interest in the Sage Tao immortal iron. We can be considered old acquaintances. How about this? If Fairy Hong Xia is able to take out 70 Violet Sun immortal pills, the Sage immortal iron will belong to Fairy Hong Xia. Cultivator Zhang said. Fairy Hong Xia said, 50 pieces. I only have 50 Purple Sun immortal pills on me. If young Master Zhang thinks it's okay, then let's make a deal. If young Master Zhang thinks it's too little, if that's the case, I can only give up. Cultivator Zhang estimated that Fairy Hong Xia would be able to accept a price of around 50 Purple Sun immortal pills. Hence, after pondering for a moment, he nodded and said, "Since we're old friends, then let's do as you say." Then, according to what Fairy Hong Xia said, Fairy Hong Xia only needs to give me 50 Violet Sun immortal pills, and this Saint Immortal Iron will belong to Fairy Hong Xia. Young Master Zhang is also a straightforward person. Fairy Hong Xia revealed a smile, following which she took out a porcelain bottle and handed it over to Cultivator Zhang. Then she said, "Young Master Zhang, please inspect it. If there's no problem with the pills, then we can make the deal now." Cultivator Zhang took the porcelain bottle and said with a smile, "There's no need to inspect it. Fairy Hong Xia's character is still trustworthy." Cultivator Zhang then handed the Sage Tao immortal iron to Fairy Hong Xia. After the two of them made the deal, both sides were happy. "Everyone, I have a treasure here. This is the Blue Sea Heart," a Skinny Sky Pride said. This person was called Wang Qi. He took out an item. It was a crystal pendant. It was as blue as the sea. This blue crystal was rather rare. "What's the use of the Blue Sea Heart?" someone asked. "Wearing it can increase one's cultivation speed by 3 times. Wang Qi said. Hiss. Many people could not help but suck in a breath of cold air, increasing one's cultivation speed by 3 times. It was extremely heaven-defying. Something like this can't be used without restrictions, right? A Sky Pride asked. Wang Qi said, "It can't be used in combination with time and space. But then again, time and space are usually in your ancestral lands. Since everyone is outside most of the time you spend in your ancestral lands isn't too long, right? The time you spend cultivating in time and space is even less. That's why the time and space of our ancestral lands are of little value to us sometimes. However, wearing the Blue Sea Heart is different. This way, when we're outside, our cultivation speed will increase by 3 times. What does Brother Wang intend to exchange for?" Someone else asked. "The Een Prison Stone," Wang Qi said. Upon hearing the words Een Prison Stone, many people could not help but frown. It was rumored that the prison stone was a type of demonic stone that was born in at least the 30th layer of the netherworld. This demonic stone was extremely terrifying. It was said that this demonic stone could awaken demons that had fallen into a deep slumber for various reasons. However, prison stones were relatively rare. It was very difficult to find them in the netherworld, let alone in the mortal world. Therefore, when Wang Qi said the words prison stone, everyone fell silent. I have a prison stone. I'll exchange it with you. At that moment, Meng Bingyan suddenly spoke. She took out a black demonic stone. That stone seemed to be the prison stone, as expected of the head of the Wantong Trading Company. She really had a lot of good things on her. She could even take out something like the prison stone. It was truly shocking. The blue sea heart belongs to you, fairy, Wang Qi said with a smile. After the two of them finished the exchange, a cultivator called Zhou Kun took out an item. It was actually a map. Everyone looked at Zhou Kun in confusion. They didn't know if there was anything special about the map he took out. Zhou Kun said, I believe that everyone has heard of the magical effects of the martial talisman. This map is said to mark the whereabouts of the Xian Dao martial talisman. This map has a connection with the Xian Dao martial talisman. If the Xian Dao martial talisman is taken by someone, the mark on the map will disappear. However, the mark on this map is still there, which means that the Xian Dao martial talisman has not been taken by someone yet. If we can obtain this map, we will definitely be able to find the Xian Dao martial talisman. After hearing Zhou Kun's words, the human cultivators were shocked. Lin Feng almost stood up. He had already collected 2 of the 3 Xian Dao martial talismans. He only needed 1 more to complete the collection. If he could collect all of them at that time, his devouring martial spirit might evolve again. At that time, the number of devouring black holes in his dantian might increase from 6 to 7. If he could complete the evolution, at that time, he would be able to use the 7 times battle strength of the Dracophon arm. And the map in Zhou Kun's hand should be the map to find the 3rd Xian Dao martial talisman. Chapter 4378. Only a few human cultivators were truly interested in the map. This group of human cultivators included a female cultivator in a blue dress, a cyan-robed young master, and a white-robed young master. There were also Chu Mo and Chu Xian. The celestial race also belonged to the human race. Even if they didn't admit that they were humans, they were still humans. This was something that couldn't be changed. Under normal circumstances, cultivators from other races didn't have martial souls. Of course, there were 2 special cases. The first, those whose parents had the human bloodline, and later on, they awakened their human bloodline. The second, their bodies had undergone some unknown mutation, just like how many ferocious beasts could mutate. Cultivators, they could also mutate, but other than human cultivators, there were no foreign mutated cultivators here. Brother, what do you want to exchange for? Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and asked, the map to find the Xian Dao martial talisman. He had to get it. This was related to the evolution of Lin Feng's martial soul. In fact, as one's cultivation increased, the effect of the martial soul would weaken. But that wasn't the case. The martial soul was useless. Of course, the martial soul had its uses. This was especially true for some of the more powerful special martial souls. For example, Lin Feng's devouring martial soul. It evolved into a devouring black hole. A devouring black hole. It could increase the power of the arm of the dragon and elephant. I want to exchange for the 9 transformations immortal pill. Zhou Kun said. It was rumored that when cultivators consumed the 9 transformations immortal pill, they would be immortal and indestructible. It was extremely precious and rare. Lin Feng had heard of it, but he had never seen it. At this moment, Xian sneered and said, "It's just a map that records the whereabouts of the martial talisman. You actually want to exchange it for the 9 transformations immortal pill? You're dreaming. Even a complete martial talisman can't be exchanged for the 9 transformations immortal pill. The martial talisman is naturally useless to those who don't need it, but to those who need it, its value is unimaginable." Zhou Kun said indifferently, "Everyone who wants to exchange with me." Zhou Kun looked at the human cultivators present. They didn't say anything. Lin Feng didn't have the 9 transformations immortal pill. He didn't know if the others had Lin Feng, but according to Xian's words, even if they did, they probably wouldn't take it out to exchange. The 9 transformations immortal pill could save one's life at critical moments. That was the most important thing. This kind of pill is a legendary item. I really can't take it out. Brother, can you exchange it for something else? Lin Feng said. Zhou Kun frowned slightly and said, "Fine. In that case, I need to use this thing to exchange for one of the top 10 3,000 great Daos. Who wants to trade with me?" Lin Feng took out a jade tube and said, "This contains the 9th-ranked Great Calamity technique. I'll trade with you." Zhou Kun took the jade tube and checked it. Although he couldn't get the 9 transformations undying immortal pill, getting the Great Disaster technique was enough to surprise him. Any one of the 3,000 great Daos ranked in the top 10 was mysterious and unfathomable. They were closely related to the most ancient great Daos. It was said that the 3,000 great Dao ranked in the top 10 were no less valuable than Immortal Sutras. Of course, the only thing that couldn't compare to Immortal Sutras was their offensive power. Among the 3,000 great Daos ranked in the top 10, there were also great Daos with powerful offensive power, such as the Great Fate technique. However, most of them were weaker than Immortal Sutras. However, the 3,000 great Daos were the foundation of Daos. Immortal Sutras were not the foundation of Daos. There was a fundamental difference between the two. The 3,000 great Daos were like the foundation of a building. Immortal Sutras, on the other hand, were like tall buildings that rose from the ground. One was the foundation. The other was the expansion of the foundation. They were interconnected. Neither could be missing. "The map belongs to you, brother." Zhou Kun handed the map to Lin Feng. Lin Feng was naturally very happy. He planned to find time to look for the 3rd mysterious martial talisman. Of course, for the time being, Lin Feng didn't plan to do so. Lin Feng had been quite busy recently. The trade fair continued. One treasure after another was taken out for trade. There were many treasures. Lin Feng had only heard of them. He had never seen them before. They were extremely valuable. It was unimaginable. Lin Feng exchanged for a treasure for Lan Yingying. It was a jade pendant. It was called the Goddess Jade Pendant. It was rumored to be a jade pendant forged by a goddess with a title of god. The jade pendant was a powerful Dharma treasure that could release powerful attacks and defenses. Lin Feng exchanged for it with a piece of Phoenix Immortal Blood Iron. Phoenix Immortal Blood Iron was a piece of immortal iron. It was extremely precious and could be used to forge immortal artifacts. The most amazing thing about it was that immortal artifacts forged from Phoenix Immortal Blood Iron had a certain probability of being reborn. In other words, if this immortal artifact was destroyed, it had a certain probability of being reborn like a phoenix. When Lin Feng handed the Goddess Jade pendant to Lan Yingying looked shocked. She didn't expect Lin Feng to exchange for the Goddess Jade pendant for her. Then Lan Yingying's pretty face turned red. There was joy and sweetness in her heart. She didn't reject it. Instead, She graciously accepted the goddess jade pendant that Lin Feng gave her. With the goddess jade pendant, the 5-colored immortal robe, and the stone wheel, Lan Yingying's attack, defense, and combat strength would be greatly improved. Moreover, Lan Yingying was not far from breaking through to the individual immortal realm. When Lan Yingying broke through, her combat strength would definitely be greatly improved. Everyone was looking forward to it. They wondered what kind of shocking level Lan Yingying's combat strength would reach after breaking through. The trade fair continued. One treasure after another was taken out. Lin Feng rarely made a move unless it was something he needed. Lin Feng would only make a move. At this moment, a cultivator with a somewhat gloomy face stood up. He took out an item. Everyone realized what he took out was actually a sealed insect lair. Everyone, this is the item I'm going to trade. A flying crimson demon insect queen is sleeping in this insect nest. I'm sure everyone has heard of the flying crimson demon insect. It's called the hell demon insect. It can spit out hell demon flames. Moreover, it's extremely powerful. It's a very terrifying demon insect. If everyone can awaken the flying crimson demon insect queen and cultivate a swarm of flying crimson demon insects, it'll be a great help to you. After hearing the cultivator's words, everyone's eyes lit up. The flying crimson demon insect queen was definitely worth cultivating. In fact, many people wanted to cultivate a swarm of insects. However, they couldn't find a suitable swarm to cultivate. This was because ordinary insects couldn't pose any threat to immortals at all. It would take a lot of effort to cultivate them. It would be a waste of resources and time. However, the flying crimson demon insect queen was different. This was a swarm of insects that could threaten the lives of immortals. Therefore, everyone present was very interested in the flying crimson demon insect queen. Chapter 4379. Lin Feng was also very interested in the flying crimson demonic bug queen. Lin Feng had cultivated the primordial ancestral insect, emperor archaic, chaos fiend-refining bugs, and celestial devouring bugs. Lin Feng had no intention of continuing to cultivate other insect swarms because he had already cultivated 2 spirit insects and 2 insect swarms. His energy was almost depleted. How would he have the energy and time to cultivate other insect swarms? However, the situation had changed. The emperor archaic and primordial ancestral insect had grown. The chaos fiend-refining bugs and celestial devouring bugs had also grown to a large scale. Therefore, Lin Feng no longer had to deliberately cultivate them. Therefore, Lin Feng had more time and energy to raise other groups of insects. Lin Feng knew how terrifying these insect swarms were. Therefore, he was very interested in cultivating insect swarms. The cultivator who took out the flying crimson demonic bug queen was called Yinjiwan. He said, "Everyone, I need something that can increase my cultivation to help me break through to the next realm. So, the highest bidder wins. Something that can directly increase cultivation? I have medial-grade immortal stones here. They can increase cultivation." "What do you think, brother?" a cultivator asked. Low-grade immortal stones were very ineffective for cultivators of their level. The harder it was to increase their cultivation, the higher-grade immortal stones they needed. Middle-grade immortal stones are fine. Of course, it would be even better if you have higher-grade immortal stones. Yin Wanji said with a smile. Many people couldn't help but slander him in their hearts. If they had higher-grade immortal stones, they wouldn't have given it to him, because the higher the grade of immortal stones, the more precious, rare, and difficult it was to find. For example, a medial-grade immortal stone could be exchanged for 100 low-grade immortal stones. However, in reality, Not many people would be willing to exchange medial-grade immortal stones for low-grade immortal stones. It was the same for medial-grade immortal stones with high-grade immortal stones. No one would use medial-grade immortal stones to solve problems that could be solved with low-grade immortal stones. No one would use high-grade immortal stones to solve problems that could be solved with medial-grade immortal stones. I don't have any middle-grade immortal stones here, but I have many special pills. It can also increase one's cultivation. Lin Feng flicked his finger, and a Dao Source immortal pill flew out. Currently, there were still countless Dao Source immortal pills piled up in the time and space. Yin Wanji took the Dao Source celestial pills and looked at them carefully before saying, 5 of these Dao Source celestial pills are roughly equivalent to 1 medium-grade celestial stone. Lin Feng nodded. The flying crimson demonic insect queen's base price is 50,000 mid-grade immortal stones. Everyone, start bidding now. Yin Wanji said, 100,000. One of the Sky Prides made a bid. Following that, the others also began to raise their bids. 110,000, 130,000, 150,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. The price soared. Soon, the price soared to 1 million middle-grade celestial stones. In fact, Yin Wanji had set the price relatively low because he knew that even if the price was set relatively low, the price would still be very high. In the end, it would still be sold at a relatively high price. This was the flying crimson demonic insect queen. It was truly too precious. It was highly possible that it could be sold for 3 to 4 million middle-grade celestial stones. Of course, the flying crimson demonic insect queen's value could not be measured by celestial stones. Many people continued to raise their bids. Before long, the price had risen to 2 million middle-grade celestial stones. 10 million. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out in the private room. When the voice rang out, the entire private room fell silent. The price had risen from 2 million to 10 million. How could someone make such a bid? Damn it! What kind of nouveau riche was? How could he make such a bid? Those were middle-grade celestial stones, not cabbages. What kind of power is this guy from? He's actually so rich. Xian and Lin Feng had a deep grudge against each other. At this moment, his expression was gloomy as he looked at Lin Feng, who had made the bid of 10 million middle-grade celestial stones. As for Lin Feng, he was filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Moreover, his storage ring had been taken away by Lin Feng. When he thought of this, he had the urge to hammer Lin Feng to death. The rest of the people's expressions turned unsightly. Their enthusiasm seemed to have been splashed with a bucket of cold water. Then it was extinguished by someone. The group of people was incomparably depressed. What was going on? Where did such a tycoon come from? How could they let others compete? This brother has made a bid of 10 million celestial stones. Does anyone have a higher bid? Iwanji asked. At this moment, his heart was blooming with joy. He had originally estimated the final price to be around 4 million middle-grade celestial stones. Who would have thought? Now, the price had more than doubled. He had met a tycoon today. How satisfying! Many people could not help but roll their eyes when they heard Iwanji continue to encourage others to bid. Did this guy think that all of them were like this nouveau riche who had an endless supply of celestial stones? These people were envious of Lin Feng, so they thought of Lin Feng as a nouveau riche. In fact, there was no need to mention how much they wanted to be as rich as Lin Feng. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, Iwanji looked at Lin Feng and said, "Brother, this flying crimson demon bug is yours." Lin Feng nodded and said, "According to the previous agreement, 10 million middle-grade celestial stones is equivalent to 50 million pills." "Yes," Iwanji hurriedly said. Lin Feng waved his hand. Whoosh, a long river of pills flew out. The long river of pills was completely made up of Tao Source immortal pills, and the immortal chi was dense. Many people's eyes widened. They wished they could snatch it away. Of course, naturally, no one dared to do such a thing. Iwanji hurriedly put away the long river of pills. Then, he handed the flying crimson demon bug queen to Lin Feng. A smile appeared on Lin Feng's face. He would find some time to cultivate the flying crimson demon bug queen. If he could cultivate a swarm of flying crimson demon bugs, he would be in control of 3 insect swarms. At that time, the 3 insect swarms would fly out together to fight against the enemy. They would be extremely powerful. Just thinking about it made him feel excited. The others felt depressed, but in terms of wealth, they might not be able to compete with Lin Feng. Therefore, they knew that they could not compete with Lin Feng. No matter how depressed they were, no matter how unwilling they were, they could only accept their fate. 2 hours later, the trade fair ended, and the crowd dispersed. After leaving the Withered Sky Pavilion, Meng Bingyan smiled and said, "There are some things that I would like to discuss with Lin Gongzi. I wonder if Lin Gongzi has the time?" Lin Feng was surprised. He did not know what Meng Bingyan wanted to discuss with him. He nodded and said, "Of course I have the time." Then, the 3 of them boarded the beast carriage. The beast carriage headed towards the Wantong Trading Company. Chapter 4380. After arriving at the Wantong Trading Company, Meng Bingyan arranged for Lan Yingying to rest in a side hall. Meng Bingyan and Lin Feng then went to the main hall. Lin Feng asked, "What is it that you want to hide from Lan Yingying?" Meng Bingyan said, "What I'm about to tell you is very important. I know that Lan Yingying is Master Lin's confidant. Even so, it won't do her any good to know about this." Lin Feng did not deny Meng Bingyan's claim that Lan Yingying was his confidant. Lin Feng said, "Fairy, please enlighten me." Meng Bingyan asked, "Lin Gongzi, have you heard of Tu Qianga?" Tu Qianga? Lin Feng was surprised, but he quickly shook his head. The name sounded domineering, but he had never heard of Tu Qianga before. He did not know its origins. Meng Bingyan said, "Actually, I'm a member of Tu Qianga." "What kind of power is Tu Qianga?" Lin Feng asked, puzzled. Meng Bingyan said, "Tu Qianga is a very secretive power. It has existed for many years. Tu Qianga is a power that is at odds with the heavenly court." Meng Bingyan said. Lin Feng was surprised. "At odds with the heavenly court? Why? Does Tu Qianga have a grudge with the heavenly court?" "Yes. It's said that the grudge is very deep. Many people from the family of Tu Qianga's founder died at the hands of the heavenly emperor. After that, he established Tu Qianga. Tu Qianga wants to slaughter all the cultivators of the heavenly court," Meng Bingyan said. Lin Feng said, "That's quite a deep grudge." Then he looked at Meng Bingyan and asked, "Do you have a deep relationship with Tu Qianga as well?" Meng Bingyan said, "Yes. Back then, my ancestor was a follower of that lord. He suffered a calamity together with him and died at the hands of the heavenly emperor." "You want to recruit me into Tu Qianga?" Lin Feng narrowed his eyes as he looked at Meng Bingyan. Meng Bingyan said, "That's right. I think you'll agree." "Why are you so confident?" Lin Feng asked. "Because your hatred for the heavenly court is also very deep," Meng Bingyan said. Lin Feng's eyes turned cold. "I didn't expect your Slaughter Heaven Pavilion to be so powerful. You even found out about my identity. I came from the mortal realm, the undying realm. Very few cultivators have seen me, and very few have heard of my name. Yet, you were able to find out about me. This is truly unbelievable. You don't have to be nervous. I don't have any malice toward you. Did you know that your father was also someone from the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion? After hearing Meng Bingyan's words, Lin Feng's face suddenly revealed an extremely shocked expression. My father is from Tu Tiange? His face was filled with disbelief. He really didn't know about this matter and had never heard Senior Duguya mention it before. However, presumably, Senior Duguya knew about it. It was just that there were many things that Senior Duguya did not tell him. Now that he was in the undying realm, if he could find Senior Duguya, he should be able to tell him some things that Senior Duguya couldn't tell him before. Meng Bingyan continued, not only was your father a member of the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion, but he was also once their vice pavilion master. The old pavilion master's condition was extremely bad, so he wanted to let your father take charge of the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion. Who would have thought that your father would be schemed against while he was out training? Lin Feng knew that Meng Bingyan was referring to being schemed against. In fact, it was the time when Di Wudao worked together with the mastermind's subordinates to scheme against his father. This was a blood feud. Your father joined the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion under my recommendation. Now, I want to recommend you to join the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion. Are you willing to follow in your father's footsteps and join the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion? Meng Bingyan asked Lin Feng. Of course I'm willing, Lin Feng nodded. Perhaps joining the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion would allow him to better understand what had happened to his father. However, even with my recommendation, whether or not you can join the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion will depend on your own ability. Meng Bingyan said. Oh, why do you say that? Lin Feng asked. Only by passing the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion's trial will you have the chance to join. I see. When will the trial begin? Lin Feng asked. Meng Bingyan said, you'll have to wait for a while. I'll report this matter to the higher-ups, and they'll decide when the trial will begin. Can you reveal the content of the trial in advance? Lin Feng asked. Meng Bingyan smiled faintly and said, I don't know. Every time Tu Tiange recruits an expert, the trial mission they issue is different. Can you reveal how many people there are in the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion? A top-notch expert? What level is that? Lin Feng asked. You'll have to wait until you join the Slaughtering Heavens Pavilion, according to the rules. I can't reveal it to you, Meng Bingyan said. Lin Feng nodded. He didn't stay for too long and soon left with Lan Yingying. The auction proceeded quickly. Meng Bingyan invited Lin Feng to the auction. Lin Feng wasn't interested in the auction, so he didn't go. Lan Yingying and the others went to the auction to watch the show. Lin Feng decided to go into seclusion for a while. He had some matters to attend to. For example, he continued to break the restrictions on the ring. For example, he wanted to see what was in the 11th floor of the Chonglu Demon Palace. Lin Feng was actually looking forward to it. Many good things would appear in the Chonglu Demon Palace. For example, the stone millstone, the mirror of present, and other treasures. They were all treasures collected by the Chonglu Demon Emperor. The Chonglu Demon Emperor was a titled god. He had collected many treasures in the past. Apart from that, the demonic Saint Emperor had been suppressed in the Gourd of Fortune for some time. It was about time to refine the demonic Saint Emperor. Lin Feng entered the space-time continuum and waved his hand. The Gourd of Fortune immediately flew to Lin Feng's side. Lin Feng's divine consciousness entered the Gourd of Fortune. He saw that the Holy Demon Emperor was extremely weak at this moment. The demonic Saint Emperor seemed to have sensed Lin Feng's aura. He roared, "Brat, let me out! Let me out now! You want to come out? Are you daydreaming?" Lin Feng sneered. Then he said, "Demonic Saint Emperor, do you have any last words before you die? If you do, say them now. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to say them in the future." "Brat, Are you really going to kill me? The moment I die, my undying ancestors will definitely sense it. When they know that you killed me, you'll be dead. The demonic Saint Emperor continued to threaten Lin Feng. He wanted to scare Lin Feng into not killing him. Chapter 43:81. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile coldly. I told you, your threats don't work on me. Today is the day you die. No one can save you. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng restrained the Saint Devil Emperor. The Saint Devil Emperor began to struggle. However, no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't break free. Lin Feng sneered. Why are you still struggling? Your fate has already been decided. I can't accept this. The Saint Devil Emperor roared. Why can't you accept this? Not even death can wipe out your crimes. Lin Feng sneered and began to refine the Saint Devil Emperor. The Saint Devil Emperor was already extremely weak, so he couldn't resist Lin Feng's refinement at all. His body soon crumbled. Lin Feng began to steal the Saint Devil Emperor's memories. The Saint Devil Emperor's memories were endless, as vast as the sea of smoke. Ordinary memories. Lin Feng wasn't interested in them. Lin Feng was interested in the Saint Devil Emperor's legacy. He wondered if there were any heaven-defying legacies in the Saint Devil Emperor's memories. Lin Feng had a hunch. There should be. After all, he was the emperor of the Saint Devil clan. How terrifying was he in the past? Although the Saint Devil Emperor's cultivation had fallen due to being imprisoned in the Forbidden God realm for countless years, his memories were still intact. However, his memories weren't lost, so he didn't forget the various powerful divine abilities he cultivated in the past. Soon, Lin Feng found the various legacies in the Saint Devil Emperor's memories. Lin Feng wasn't particularly interested in the ordinary divine abilities, emperor techniques, and immortal techniques. What really made Lin Feng envious were the top-tier and heaven-defying divine abilities. This is the legacy of the Tao of Time. Suddenly, Lin Feng found a piece of memory. It was the legacy of the Tao of Time. Lin Feng had already cultivated the Tao of Space, but he hadn't cultivated the Tao of Time. To think that there would be an inheritance of the Tao of Time in the memories of the Saint Devil Emperor, this made Lin Feng extremely happy. If he cultivated the Tao of Time, that would be heaven-defying. Lin Feng began to try to memorize the mnemonic chant in this memory, but at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The Holy Demon Emperor's soul and memories began to burn. Not good. Lin Feng's expression changed greatly. The Holy Devil Emperor's soul probably had some restrictions as well. Now, the restriction was going to destroy the Holy Devil Emperor's soul and memories. Once these memories were destroyed, he would never be able to obtain the inheritance of the Holy Devil Emperor. It was fine if it was just an ordinary legacy. However, the inheritance of the Tao of Time was something that Lin Feng had been coveting for a long time. Lin Feng hurriedly memorized the cultivation chant of the Tao of Time. It was a pity that the cultivation chants were too obscure and difficult to understand. It was hard to comprehend. Therefore, before the memories of the Way of Time were completely destroyed, Lin Feng had only comprehended a very small portion of the cultivation chant. Lin Feng felt a little helpless, but there was nothing he could do about it. After all, there was a terrifying restriction in the other party's soul. Lin Feng refined the Holy Devil Emperor's source into a Holy Devil fruit. He refined the Holy Devil fruit. Lin Feng's cultivation broke through from the first heavenly layer to the second heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor realm. Lin Feng was already very satisfied to be able to break through to the next level. Then, Lin Feng took out the evil corpse ring. Now, Lin Feng had successfully deciphered the sky-splitting roar, scarlet flame golden swanee, ice-armored horned demon dragon, an 8-clawed fire centipede. Lin Feng had yet to decipher the 9-winged celestial dragon, thunderbat dragon, blue-winged sea dragon, sea-splitting mysterious dragon whale, and kuei cow. Previously, Lin Feng had failed when he tried to decipher the 9-winged celestial dragon. Now, Lin Feng had broken through to the Holy Emperor realm. If he were to decipher the 9-winged celestial dragon now, Lin Feng believed that he would definitely be able to decipher the 9-winged celestial dragon, the 9 great ferocious beast runes. The later the ferocious beast runes were more difficult to decipher. The 9-winged celestial dragon runes were very difficult to decipher. However, these ferocious beast runes were not difficult for Lin Feng. In the end, Lin Feng successfully deciphered it. Next, Lin Feng began to decipher the thunderbat dragon runes. These ferocious beast runes were even more difficult to decipher. Lin Feng was unable to decipher these ferocious beast runes. He then kept the evil corpse ring. Next, Lin Feng entered the Chonlu Devil Palace. Master, the black bear saint appeared and bowed to Lin Feng. Bring me to the 11th layer. Lin Feng said, Yes, master. The black bear saint said. Then he brought Lin Feng into the 11th layer. Within the 11th layer, there was a scroll of yellowed ancient scripture. Lin Feng was shocked. Under normal circumstances, the higher the level of the item, the more precious it would be. There was actually a yellowed ancient scripture in the 11th layer. What did the ancient scripture record? Lin Feng was filled with curiosity as he walked towards the ancient scripture. Soon, Lin Feng arrived before the ancient scripture. Then he picked it up. He started to read it carefully. However, Lin Feng was very depressed because he did not recognize the words on it. If only the demon lord was awake. Perhaps the demon lord would recognize the words on it. Black Bear Saint, do you recognize the words on the ancient scripture? Lin Feng looked at the Black Bear Saint and asked. The Black Bear Saint smiled bitterly. Master, this subordinate does not recognize these ancient words either. Illiterate, Lin Feng said. The Black Bear Saint could not help but mutter to himself, Damn, you have the nerve to call me illiterate. You don't even recognize them. If I'm illiterate, then you're illiterate too. The Black Bear Saint naturally did not dare to say these words out loud. He only dared to mutter to himself. Lin Feng left the Chonlu Demon Palace. Not long after, Lan Yingying and the others returned. Lan Yingying was very excited because the price of the immortal source stone and the Tao insect was much higher than she had expected. 2 items. A total of 50 million immortal stones had been sold. After deducting the Wantong Trading Company's commission, there were still 45 million immortal stones left. The next day, Lin Feng contacted Meng Bingyan and asked her to send Lan Yingying and the others out of Heavenly Wither City. Many things had happened in Heavenly Wither City during this time. Lin Feng knew that he was being watched. Lan Yingying and the others were definitely being watched as well. Therefore, Lin Feng planned to use the Wantong Trading Company's power to send them out. The Wantong Trading Company was very capable, so it would not be a problem for them to send them out silently. However, Lin Feng did not leave because he still had many things to deal with. For example, he needed to find someone to refine the 3 Soul 7 Spirit Pill. There was also the trial at Tu Tiange that was coming soon. Chapter 43-82. Lan Yingying and the others were successfully sent out, and Lin Feng continued to stay in the Withered Sky City. That night, a dozen cultivators came to the Withered Sky City. The leader was an old man. Grandpa Long, avenge me! Avenge me! When Chi Zimu saw the old man in the lead, he immediately cried and wailed with tears and snot. His appearance was as miserable as it could be. The old man was called Long Moxie. He was the follower of the Eight-Eye Heavenly Lord. What kind of terrifying existence was the Eight-Eye Heavenly Lord? He had tens of millions of celestial soldiers and generals under his command. Therefore, his followers were also very respected. Long Moxie had received Chi Zimu's condition. He had rushed over to deal with this matter. Seeing Chi Zimu's severed arm, Long Moxie's face was extremely gloomy. This is too much. This is too much. Long Moxie's eyes were filled with killing intent. Only the Chi family bullied others. When had the Chi family ever been bullied like this? Who is that kid? Long Moxie's face was filled with killing intent. That kid seems to be called Lin Feng. But I'm not too sure about his identity. But that kid is an extremely despicable person. Xian said through gritted teeth. Thinking about the battle with Lin Feng made his liver hurt. If they were to fight head-on, Xian believed that he would not lose to Lin Feng. But he was sneakily attacked by Lin Feng and knocked out with a punch. It was a great humiliation. Chuemo said, "This person is not simple. He should be from an extraordinary background and is very rich." Previously at the trade fair, he spent 10 million middle-grade immortal stones to buy something that was worth 3 to 4 million, at most without batting an eye. Oh, there's such a thing? Long Mo-Sia's expression couldn't help but turn gloomy. Even for an expert of his level, he would not be able to easily take out 10 million middle-grade immortal stones. But Lin Feng spent 10 million middle-grade immortal stones to buy something that was worth 3 to 4 million middle-grade immortal stones. They were really rich and overbearing, most of the time. A person's wealth. It was often a reflection of the power behind this person. Chu Mo said, "So, even if we want to deal with this kid, we can't let Senior do it. Otherwise, once the power behind him finds out, there will be endless trouble in the future." Everyone present agreed on this point. However, Chi Zimu was not reconciled. He said, "Lin Feng must die. He had to die. If he didn't die, I can't get rid of the hatred in my heart." Long Mo-Sia said, "Don't worry, young master. This kid will definitely die a tragic death." "My lord, let me go. I will definitely be able to kill him." Suddenly, a young-looking cultivator stepped forward. This cultivator exuded a dense killing intent. That kind of killing intent was a terrifying killing intent that had been tempered from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. This person was called Pang Tong, and he was a commander under the Heavenly Eye Corps. Although he was young, he had entered the Tao through killing. He was extremely powerful. Good. I'll leave it to you to kill him. However, don't fight in Heavenly Withering City. Wait until you're out of the city. Bring me that kid's head." Long Mo-Sia knew how terrifying Pang Tong was, so he gave the order. "Yes, my lord." Pang Tong replied. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sinister killing intent. He had entered the Tao through killing, so he was passionate about killing. He was also passionate about challenges. Life and death battles could make his blood boil. He had also completed his own transformation through numerous life and death battles, constantly improving his strength. Recently, Pang Tong had encountered a bottleneck in his cultivation. He planned to use Lin Feng's blood as a catalyst. He would use this opportunity to break his current shackles. Lin Feng did not know about Pang Tong's matter. Perhaps, even if he knew about Pang Tong's matter, he would not take it to heart. Pang Tong was powerful. However, Lin Feng, who had recovered his strength, was not weak either. 5 days after Lan Yingying and the others left Heavenly Withering City, Meng Bingyan sent someone to inform Lin Feng and asked him to head to the Wantong Trading Company. Lin Feng arrived at the Wantong Trading Company. Lan Yingying smiled and said, "That alchemist senior has come out of seclusion. Let's go and meet that alchemist senior now." Great. Lin Feng's face lit up with joy. He was waiting for the pill to come out of the furnace. That way, Bibi and the others could be awakened. Lin Feng urgently needed Bibi and the others' help. After all, the undying world was too dangerous. That alchemist is a heavenly immortal expert. You should be mentally prepared. Meng Bingyin said. A heavenly immortal expert. Lin Feng could not help but look shocked. Yes, Meng Bingyin nodded. Then she looked at Lin Feng with a strange gaze. Moreover, she looked like she wanted to say something, but stopped herself. Lin Feng was thinking about the alchemist, so he did not notice the change in Meng Bingyin's expression. Where is that alchemist? Lin Feng asked curiously. In the black market, Meng Bingyin said. Then she brought him to see the alchemist. The alchemist was located in the depths of the black market. There was a shabby small courtyard in that area. The black market was bustling with noise and excitement, but only this place. No one dared to come, because that alchemist's temper was not very good. If anyone came here and disturbed his cultivation, they would definitely not be able to take the blame and leave. The undying world did indeed have true immortal experts, but there were probably not many of them. Moreover, experts of this level would not come out and walk around. There was also a portion of true immortal experts who simply left the undying world and went to the heaven realm. Therefore, a heavenly immortal expert could almost be considered the top battle strength of the undying world. And a heavenly immortal alchemist status was much more honorable than an ordinary heavenly immortal expert. After all, many people who wanted to refine some top-grade pills had to ask for help from these alchemists. Under Meng Bingyin's lead, Lin Feng came to the outside of the small courtyard. Meow, a big black cat walked out. This was not an ordinary cat. When Lin Feng saw this big black cat, he felt goosebumps all over his body. This cat was absolutely terrifying. Senior Black Cat Saint, this junior is here to pay a visit to Senior Yao Qianhun, Meng Bingyin said. She was very respectful towards this big black cat. This kid looks very familiar. The big black cat spoke human words, and a pair of black eyes stared at Lin Feng. Seeing this, Lin Feng's hair stood on end. He felt that the big black cat's gaze was not friendly. However, the big black cat only muttered a sentence, then said, "Follow me." Then the big black cat turned and walked slowly into the courtyard. Lin Feng and Meng Bingyin entered the dilapidated courtyard. Chapter 43-83. The courtyard was overgrown with weeds. It was unknown how long it had been since someone had disturbed them. Lin Feng discovered that other than the alchemist, there seemed to be only this black cat that had become a spirit living here. He guessed that this black cat was the alchemist's pet in the past, but now this pet had become an extremely heaven-defying existence. Moreover, it was an existence that no one dared to underestimate. They arrived outside the room in the middle. The black cat said, "Master, Meng Bingyin and an unknown brat are here to look for you." "Little Meng, you're here. Quickly come in." A somewhat hoarse and old voice came from inside. The big black cat did not enter the room. It directly jumped onto the roof beam to rest. Lin Feng and Meng Bingyin pushed open the door and entered the room. The room was very messy. There were pills and all sorts of spirit herbs all over the floor. There were also medicinal dregs from the alchemy. Lin Feng even saw some celestial pills, but they were all thrown on the ground like trash. The corner of his mouth could not help but twitch violently. This alchemist's heart was really big. In a corner of the room, a skinny old man wearing a dirty robe had his back facing Lin Feng and Meng Bingyin. He seemed to be flipping through a book. As he flipped through the book, he muttered something. "Senior, we're here," Meng Bingyin said. Hearing Meng Bingyan's voice, the old man stood up. He was clearly the Yao Qianhun that Meng Bingyan had mentioned before. A great sky, immortal-level alchemist. Little Meng, why are you looking for me? Could it be that old fart from slaughtering Heaven Pavilion has some good wine for you to bring to me? The old man grinned. His eyes were emitting green light. It seemed that he was also a wine cultivator. Meng Bingyan said, Senior is really clever. You guessed it right. The pavilion master has collected some good wine and specially sent someone to give it to you as a gift. Meng Bingyan waved her hand, following which more than 20 wine jars flew out. They landed beside Yao Qianhun. Yao Qianhun picked up a wine jar and opened the cork. He stuck his nose out and smelled the wine. He immediately grinned and laughed. Just by smelling this wine, I know it's good wine. After saying that, he began to gulp it down. In one breath, he drank the entire jar of wine. He was truly a drunkard. Lin Feng thought of the old drunkard. Lin Feng didn't know where the old man had run off to. Ever since they parted ways, he hadn't seen the old drunkard again. After Yao Qianhun drank a jar of wine, he put away the other jars. Moreover, he looked very happy. It seemed that he was quite satisfied with today's harvest. At this time, Meng Bingyan said, This junior has a friend who wants to refine a batch of pills. I wonder if Senior can help this junior's friend. Since I have nothing to do, I'll give you some face and refine a cauldron of pills for him, Yao Qianhun said. He then looked at Lin Feng and asked, Kid, what kind of pill do you want to concoct? Lin Feng was overjoyed. Just as he was about to answer, Yao Qianhun suddenly widened his eyes and said, Hey kid, you look very familiar. It was this sentence again. Earlier, the big black cat had also said that he looked familiar. Now, Yao Qianhun was also saying that he looked familiar. Lin Feng couldn't help but whisper to himself. His handsome face wasn't ordinary at all. Were these two fellows blind? Kid, have we met somewhere before? Yao Qianhun asked. This is Junior's first time meeting Senior. Lin Feng said. What's your name? Yao Qianhun asked. Junior's name is Lin Feng. What's your father's name? Yao Qianhun continued asking. Junior's father is called Lin Beitian. Keek. Yao Qianhun suddenly laughed sinisterly. Yao Qianhun's image wasn't very good, but at least he wasn't too scary. At most, he looked like an old man. But at this moment, coupled with this sinister laughter, Yao Qianhun looked like an old ghost that had crawled out of hell. Don't be so scary, okay? You'll scare me to death if you scare me. Little Meng, you go back first and leave this kid to me, Yao Qianhun said with a grin. Meng Bingyan seemed to be worried about Lin Feng. Lin Feng also felt that something was wrong. He had only come to find this old thing to refine a furnace of pills. Was there a need to stay in this place? Given my relationship with your pavilion master, do you think I'll do anything to harm that brat? Yao Qianhun said. All right, Junior will take his leave. Meng Bingyan said. Then she looked at Lin Feng with a pitiful gaze. Then she walked out. Lin Feng felt that something was wrong. Thus, he said, I'll find someone else to refine the pills. Junior will take his leave first. Lin Feng wanted to leave with Meng Bingyan. However, in the next moment, Lin Feng felt that his body was imprisoned. He was no longer able to move. Meng Bingyan walked out of the room. With a bang, the door closed. Fairy, save me. Big sister, save me. Beauty, don't go. Don't leave me here alone. I'm timid. I'm scared, Lin Feng shouted loudly. Meng Bingyan thought, Lin Feng, good luck. I can't help you now. After Meng Bingyan left, Lin Feng realized that the power that imprisoned his body had disappeared. He looked at Yao Qianhun and said with a bitter smile, Senior, why did you keep me here? Why do I feel that you have ill intentions? Don't you want to refine pills? I kept you here to discuss the matter of refining pills. Yao Qianhun said. Junior wants to refine. Lin Feng opened his mouth, but was interrupted by Yao Qianhun. Yao Qianhun said, let's talk about refining pills tomorrow. Today, let's do something else. What is it? Lin Feng looked at Yao Qianhun with a vigilant expression. He kept feeling that Yao Qianhun's old face was up to no good. Moreover, Yao Qianhun's old face was smiling like a blooming flower. Seeing him smiling like a blooming flower, was there a need to be like this? Lin Feng's heart suddenly felt a chill. Hee, I've been refining pills for too long. I haven't exercised my muscles and bones for a long time, so I want to exercise my muscles and bones with you. You won't refuse, right? Yao Qianhun walked towards Lin Feng step by step. Hearing Yao Qianhun's words, Lin Feng's face turned green. Yao Qianhun was a sky immortal expert. Exercising with him was a sky immortal expert. Then wouldn't he be tortured to death by Yao Qianhun? Senior, you should find other sky immortals to exercise your muscles and bones. Junior's thin arms and legs aren't enough. Lin Feng said, this old man wants to find you to exercise my muscles and bones. Yao Qianhun grinned and jumped out. He quickly rushed towards Lin Feng. His speed was simply too fast. So fast that Lin Feng couldn't react in time. Lin Beitian, you little bastard! Yao Qianhun shouted, and then sent Lin Feng flying with a punch. Who knew what was wrong with this old thing? When he sent Lin Feng flying with a punch, he was cursing Lin Feng's father, Lin Beitian. Moreover, he was gnashing his teeth. Those who didn't know would think that Lin Beitian had dug up this old thing's ancestral grave. Chapter 43:84. Don't hit me anymore. I'll die if you continue to hit me. Lin Feng's wailing came from the room. Lin Feng even had the heart to cry now. He didn't offend this old fart. He was actually bullied by this old fart like this. It was really depressing. Lin Feng wanted to fight back, but this old fart didn't give Lin Feng a chance to fight back at all. Don't you have the immortal bloodline? How could anything happen to you? You won't die. I'm helping you to loosen your muscles and revive your bones. It's good for your cultivation. You should thank me properly. Yao Qianhun, this old fart, grinned. He looked at Lin Feng with a gloating expression. Then, this old fart's attack was even heavier. Ouch, my bones are broken. Ouch, it hurts so much. Lin Feng's screams continued to be heard. Finally, Lin Feng found a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and directly activated the 6 times dragon elephant arm. A punch was thrown towards Yao Qianhun, this old fart. Yao Qianhun couldn't dodge in time. He was sent flying by Lin Feng. Crack, crack. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Several bones in his body were almost broken by Lin Feng's punch. Good, good, good. You're powerful, but we've just started. This old fart shouted angrily. After receiving Lin Feng's punch, his injuries were not light, so he became more and more angry. His attacks were even heavier. Lin Feng was beaten up badly by this old fart. In the end, he was thrown into a room to rest. The blood in Lin Feng's body flowed at an unprecedented speed. With the flow of blood, Lin Feng's injuries were quickly recovering. At the same time, Lin Feng's body actually discharged many impurities. Yao Qianhun dealt with Lin Feng ruthlessly. However, after a fight between the two sides, some impurities in Lin Feng's body that were difficult to discharge. Indeed, they were gradually discharged from the body. Lin Feng was very tired, so he lay on the bed and fell asleep. In a daze, Lin Feng had a dream. In this dream, Lin Feng saw Yao Qianhun once again. Except for Yao Qianhun, there was also another young cultivator. The young cultivator was very handsome. Vaguely, he was somewhat similar to Lin Feng. Father, Lin Feng was shocked. He never thought that he would see his father in his dream. Back then, did his father come here? Lin Feng finally understood what the big black cat and Yao Qianhun meant when they said that he vaguely gave them a familiar feeling. His father had been here before. Now he was here. Between father and son, there were some similarities. I'm here for the Saint Soul Immortal Pill, Lin Beitian said to Yao Qianhun. Do you know what kind of person I hate the most? Yao Qianhun asked Lin Beitian. What kind of people do you hate the most? Lin Beitian asked. I hate people from the Undying clan the most. Yao Qianhun said. Lin Beitian's expression became strange. Weren't you sworn brothers with that ancestor? Asked Yi Fuqian. Lin Beitian asked. So what if I am? Yes, it doesn't mean I don't hate him. Yao Qianhun said. You're close friends, but you hate him. Why is that? Lin Beitian asked, puzzled. Because that bastard is better looking than me. Ever since I was young, all the beautiful women around me liked him. He ignored me. Is that reason enough? Yao Qianhun said viciously. I heard that Senior doesn't get close to women. Lin Beitian said. Yao Qianhun cursed. Which bastard started that rumor? Was it that crippled bastard who told you that? When I was young, when I was at my hottest, all the beautiful women surrounded that bastard with a broken leg. Everyone around me was ugly. If I want to get close to a woman, I need a chance. I'd rather castrate myself than lose my chastity to those ugly women. Lin Beitian said. Does that mean Senior has already castrated himself? Yao Qianhuan's mouth twitched violently. He glared at Lin Beitian and said, Why do I feel like you're asking for a beating? Since you're the one who delivered yourself to me, don't blame me for being impolite. Lin Beitian asked, Senior, what are you planning to do to me? I need to vent. I can't beat that crippled old bastard, so I'm here to teach his descendant a lesson. Yao Qianhun revealed a demonic smile. It was no wonder those beautiful women were unwilling to surround Yao Qianhun. Yao Qianhun was too ugly. He was already extremely ugly normally. When he smiled, he looked like a ghost. Lin Beitian said, Why don't we have a peaceful chat? Don't make a move. Are you afraid? What a coward. Yao Qianhun laughed loudly. Lin Beitian was afraid. He seemed to be very happy. I am indeed afraid. I'm afraid that I might accidentally cripple Senior with a punch. I'll feel bad if that happens. Lin Beitian said. You. Yao Qianhun stammered. Yao Qianhun was so angry that his whole body trembled. This kid's words were simply infuriating. Lin Feng laughed when he saw this. In his impression, there were too few memories of his father. Back then, his father was seriously injured when he was attacked. Most of the time, his father looked sick. After his father gradually recovered, his father left again. What was his father's personality when he was young? Lin Feng didn't know at all. Now, it seemed, his own personality. There were some similarities with his father. They were both people who could infuriate the other party half to death with just their words. This kind of father seemed more vivid and vivid. If his father was a very old-fashioned person, it would be less interesting. Go teach this guy a lesson for me. Yao Qianhun looked at the big black cat and said, Meow. The big black cat walked step by step toward Lin Beitian. Swoosh. Suddenly, the big black cat turned into a black bolt of lightning. Its speed was too fast. It was so fast that it was unimaginable. It instantly arrived in front of Lin Beitian. Then it raised its paw and slapped at Lin Beitian. But at this time, Lin Beitian pointed at the big black cat lightly. The big black cat was imprisoned in the void. Good boy, you're strong enough. Take my punch and see what happens. There was a cold laugh. When the big black cat attacked, Yao Qianhun attacked as well. He quickly rushed toward Lin Beitian. He threw a punch at Lin Beitian. Yao Qianhun's punch was about to hit Lin Beitian. Lin Beitian's eyes flickered coldly. At that moment, the void stilled and the heavenly Tao sank. It was like the gaze of death from a supreme ruler. Yao Qianhun's body trembled violently. He was so scared that he almost fell to the ground. Chapter 43:85. However, the coldness in Lin Beitian's eyes disappeared in an instant, and that kind of terrifying pressure, it also disappeared. You, Yao Qianhun pointed at Lin Beitian with a horrified expression. Sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Sometimes I can't control my strength. Lin Beitian said apologetically. On purpose. On purpose. You definitely did it on purpose. Yao Qianhun was extremely depressed. He was a sky immortal expert, but he was defeated by a junior. Look, his legs went soft. The only thing he didn't do was sit on the ground. It was too embarrassing. However, he couldn't lose his temper at this junior. This guy was too abnormal. A hero is born from a young man, Yao Qianhun said with a smile. Then, he quickly took out the pill. He handed it to Lin Beitian. He just wanted to send this guy out as soon as possible. Thank you, senior. Lin Beitian took the pill and cupped his fists. Then, he left with Meng Bingyan, who was standing not far away. At this moment, Lin Feng woke up from the dream. It was still dark outside, but Lin Feng found that his injuries had completely recovered. That dream, Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. That dream was so real. Could it be? That was actually not a dream. It was actually a special imprint. For example, a consciousness imprint, a space-time imprint, a memory imprint, and so on. When a certain triggering condition appeared, those special imprints, they would show everything that had happened in the past. It was just like what Lin Feng had seen in his dream. The more Lin Feng thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. No wonder this old guy was so ruthless. It was because he was so scared by my father's gaze that he almost peed his pants. Lin Feng grinned. He finally knew why that guy was so angry. But then Lin Feng sighed. When his father came to Yao Qianhun's place, he was definitely younger than him. However, his father was already so powerful, as expected of someone favored by the epic. The next day, Lin Feng stood up. After coming out of the room, he saw Yao Qianhun resting on an armchair and the big black cat lying at his feet. TSK, you're recovering pretty fast. The undying bloodline is amazing. Yao Qianhun smacked his lips and said. Lin Feng said, Senior, are you able to help me refine pills today? Yao Qianhun's aura was also released. His mood also improved. Therefore, he did not intend to make things difficult for a junior like Lin Feng. What kind of pill do you want to concoct? Yao Qianhun asked. 3 Soul 7 Spirit pill. The prescription is in the jade tube. Lin Feng took out a jade tube and handed it to Yao Qianhun. Yao Qianhun accepted the jade tube. After scanning it with his divine sense, he nodded and asked, Have you prepared the required spiritual herbs? It's also ready, Lin Feng said. Then he took out a storage ring. He placed all the spirit herbs in this storage ring. Come back in 10 days to get the pills. Yao Qianhun said, Thank you, Senior. I'll take my leave now. Lin Feng cupped his fists and left. Not long after Lin Feng returned to his residence, Meng Bingyan came to Lin Feng's residence. Did anything happen yesterday? Meng Bingyan asked Lin Feng with a faint smile. Lin Feng smiled bitterly and said, "Why didn't you tell me what happened between my father and Senior Yao Qianhun back then? That way, I would have been mentally prepared. I was taught a lesson by Senior Yao Qianhun yesterday. Life is full of surprises. If I told you everything, wouldn't it be no fun?" Meng Bingyan said with a smile. Lin Feng realized that Meng Bingyan was like a fairy. She was also a little mischievous. Meng Bingling asked, "Did Senior Yao Qianhun agree to refine the pills for you?" "He agreed. He told me to come back in 10 days to get the pills." Lin Feng said, "That's good." Meng Bingyan nodded. 10 days passed quickly. Lin Feng went to Yao Qianhuan's residence again. "Here are your pills." A cauldron of pills produced 49 3-soul, 7-soul pills. Yao Qianhun handed a porcelain bottle to Lin Feng. "Thank you, Senior." Lin Feng was overjoyed and thanked Yao Qianhun. Yao Qianhun waved his hand at Lin Feng. Lin Feng bid farewell and left. "That kid, I wonder if he can grow to his father's level in the future." After Lin Feng left, the big black cat raised its head and said, "I think he might be able to, maybe even surpass him." Yao Qianhun said. The big black cat asked, puzzled, "Why do you think so?" "Because there's a mysterious power in that kid's body. He hasn't awakened that mysterious power yet. If he does awaken it, that would be amazing. To what extent will he grow? It's unimaginable." Yao Qianhun said. Lin Feng naturally couldn't hear the conversation between Yao Qianhun and the big black cat. After receiving the pills, Lin Feng quickly returned to his residence. He couldn't wait to wake up Bibi and the others who had fallen into a deep slumber. He wondered if he could successfully awaken Bibi and the others. After returning to his residence, Lin Feng set up restrictions to protect it. He didn't want anyone to disturb him. After that, Lin Feng entered the space-time continuum. He fed a pill to Bibi, his avatar, the little dragon, the white jade toad, Blackie, the dragon rabbit, the emperor archaic, and the primordial ancestor insect. After that, he took out a portion of the pills, ground them into powder, and mixed it into the water. He sprinkled the potion containing the 3-soul 7-spirit pill on the chaos fiend-refining insects and the immortal devouring insects. Individually, these insects weren't that strong. Therefore, they didn't need to eat a single pill. In fact, they would be able to awaken after absorbing a small portion of the pill's potency. All that was left was to wait. 6 hours later, Lin Feng's avatar was the first to awaken. Lin Feng sensed his avatar's strength. This deep slumber didn't affect his avatar's strength much. Lin Feng let out a long sigh of relief. Bibi and the others woke up one after another. The 2 insect groups were the last to awaken. Seeing that they were able to awaken, Lin Feng was very happy. The day after Lin Feng came out of seclusion, Meng Bingyan sent someone to bring Lin Feng to the Wantong Trading Company. After seeing Lin Feng, Meng Bingyan said with a smile, "The higher-ups have issued a trial mission for you to join the Slaughtering Heaven Pavilion. The content is recorded in the jade tube. Take a look for yourself." Meng Bingyan said, and handed the jade tube to Lin Feng. Chapter 4386. Lin Feng's divine will enter the jade tube. A lot of information flowed into his mind. Save the Sacred Demon Tree mission. The Sacred Demon Tree was a sacred tree that had existed since the primordial era, an era before the primordial era. However, as time passed, the Sacred Demon Tree's roots began to rot. He needed to find the sacred spirit liquid to save the Sacred Demon Tree. It was rumored that the sacred spirit liquid was a sacred liquid controlled by the sacred spirit race, and was very precious. The ancient sacred spirit race lived in a certain place in the sacred spirit forest. They hated foreign cultivators and were not allowed to approach the sacred spirit race's territory. Otherwise, they would be attacked by the sacred spirit race. If he could obtain the sacred spirit liquid from the sacred spirit race, he could complete the mission. Reward: 1. Become an official member of Tu Tiange. 2. Reward: 3 sacred demon fruits. The sacred demon fruits could greatly increase a cultivator's cultivation. This reward is really not bad. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. Right now, he needed the sacred demon fruits to increase his cultivation. However, it seemed very difficult to obtain the sacred spirit liquid. This was because the sacred spirit race was very hostile to foreign cultivators. If he wanted to obtain the sacred item of the sacred spirit race, naturally, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. This point, Lin Feng was also very clear. However, if this mission was easy to complete, it probably wouldn't be a trial mission to join Tu Tiange. Meng Bingyan smiled and said, "I'm sure you've seen the mission. Are you confident that you can complete it?" "Of course," Lin Feng said. "Good. I'll wait for your return. After you join Tu Tiange, you'll know how extraordinary Tu Tiange is. Tu Tiange is also very important to you," Meng Bingyan said. Lin Feng thought that Meng Bingyan's words meant that his father had joined Tu Tiange, so there was a special meaning to him joining Tu Tiange. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't think about it in any other way. "I hope I can complete the mission as soon as possible. By the way, is this sacred spirit race related to those ancient sacred spirits?" Lin Feng asked. Sacred spirit. Generally, it referred to existences born from the heavens and earth. Thus, it could be said that sentient life forms were the earliest saint spirits. However, sentient life forms were born together with the heavens and the earth. That was why they were called sentient life forms. As for the existences that were born later on, they were called holy spirits. Meng Bingyan said the ancestor of the sacred spirit race was a sentient life form, extremely powerful. He was also extremely arrogant. In the past, they were incomparably glorious, but with the passage of time, it gradually declined. Moreover, you should know that as those ancient powers weaken, new powers will definitely rise. Complete the replacement. This is the situation with the Holy Spirit race. During the change of power, the Holy Spirit clan suffered great losses. In the end, they had no choice but to retreat to the Holy Spirit forest to recuperate. However, they have not forgotten the hatred of the past. Therefore, the Holy Spirit clan hates the people of the outside world. Lin Feng stroked his chin. He felt that this matter might be more troublesome than he had imagined. However, this was not enough to scare off Lin Feng. "Where is the Holy Spirit forest?" Lin Feng asked. "It's also within our Black Sand region. Once you leave Heavenly Wither City and head northwest, you'll reach the Holy Spirit forest in about 3 months. Meng Bingyan said. "That's really far." Lin Feng sighed. He then said, "I'll set off tomorrow." Meng Bingyan nodded and said, "All right, I wish you a triumphant return. However, you must be careful on the way." "I will," Lin Feng said. He did not stay at the Wantong Trading Company for long and quickly left. After Lin Feng left, Elder Sun entered the hall. Elder Sun said, "Lord," according to the reports of our spies, the Eight-High Heavenly Lord's subordinate, Long Moxie, has arrived at Heavenly Wither City. Looks like he's here because of Chi Zima's severed arm. Long Moxie will definitely send experts to deal with Lin Gongzi. Should we secretly help Lin Gongzi deal with these threats?" Meng Bingyan shook her head and said, "There's no need. The Pavilion Lord has already considered these matters. He hopes to temper him and let him truly grow. There are too many experts in the undying world. If he keeps relying on others' help, he will die in the undying world sooner or later. To put it bluntly, one needs to be strong to forge iron. Yes, elder son replied. The next day, Lin Feng left Heavenly Wither City and quickly flew in the direction of the Holy Spirit Forest. Lin Feng planned to investigate the situation of the Holy Spirit race before considering how to deal with them. After Lin Feng left the ancient city and entered the boundless ancient forest, Lin Feng waved his hand, and the Xianyuan ancient ship flew out. Lin Feng boarded the ancient ship. The ancient ship flew in the direction of the Holy Spirit Forest. The Xianyuan ancient ship had already given birth to spirituality. Therefore, with just a command, the ancient ship could fly on its own. Lin Feng did not even need to control the direction of the ancient ship. It was very convenient. The undying world was vast and boundless. It was said that the undying world was the smallest region. It was almost as big as 10 prefectures, great worlds. One could imagine how big was the undying world. Besides the towns and villages in the undying world, the rest of the places were basically forests. Once the forests appeared on a large scale, there would inevitably be more ferocious beasts in the forests. Therefore, the undying world was a world where almost everyone cultivated. Whether it was the people in the towns or villages, they would cultivate and improve their strength. Of course, the reason why they cultivated was because of the current situation of the undying world. Secondly, it was because the environment they were in was indeed a good environment compared to the mortal world. The undying world was definitely a holy land for cultivation. The air was filled with immortal qi. In addition, there were all kinds of spiritual herbs growing in the forests, besides the higher grade cultivation methods and spirit techniques. Ordinary cultivation methods and spirit techniques were not expensive and could be bought easily. Therefore, cultivating in the undying world was very simple. There were many sects and forces in the undying world. There were simply too many of them. If one had the talent, one could join one of those sections. This way, one would have a place of shelter. Moreover, one could obtain better resources. Bang! Suddenly, the ancient starship, Xianyuan, felt as if it had been hit by an immemorial mountain. The entire ship shook violently. Then, the Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship was forced to stop. Lin Feng frowned. He walked out of the ancient ship. Then he saw a cultivator wearing battle armor was floating in the void in front of him. That cultivator exuded a gloomy and terrifying aura. It was as if he had just climbed out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. It was this person who forced the ancient ship to stop. Chapter 4387. The cultivator blocking the path of the Xianyuan ancient starship was none other than Pang Tong. This guy was indeed very powerful. The aura he emitted made Lin Feng frown slightly. Lin Feng knew that since this person had blocked his path, he must have come with bad intentions. Since the other party had come with bad intentions, Lin Feng naturally didn't need to be polite with this guy. Lin Feng said indifferently, as the saying goes, a good dog doesn't block the way. Why are you blocking my path? I don't have any bones here to feed you. Lin Feng fully displayed the power of his poisonous tongue. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the corners of Pang Tong's mouth twitched. The corners of Pang Tong's mouth twitched violently as a dense killing intent flashed in his eyes. I've long heard that you're a sharp-tongued kid. Now that I've seen you, you really live up to your reputation. However, since you've met this king today, you're destined to die. Pang Tong walked towards the Xianyuan ancient starship step by step. The killing intent in his eyes grew stronger. An extremely terrifying killing intent gushed out of his body. That kind of killing intent seemed to have imprisoned the surrounding void, entering the Tao through killing. Lin Feng was very surprised. This person was actually an expert who entered the Tao through killing. Such an expert was extremely rare. After all, entering the Tao through killing wasn't an easy task. Why did he say that? Because if one wanted to enter the Tao through killing, they would need to keep killing. Killing thousands or tens of thousands of people was nothing. If one wanted to enter the Tao through killing, they would need to kill even more people. If one killed too many people, their emotions would become more and more violent. Once their emotions became more and more violent, it would become more and more difficult to control their emotions. In the end, it would lead to the complete collapse of their will, and they would fall into the demonic Tao. They would become a tool that only knew how to kill. Therefore, many cultivators in history who entered the Tao through killing couldn't keep their minds and lost themselves. Their bodies were dominated by the will to kill. However, the cultivator in front of him was obviously not like this. Although he also entered the Tao through killing, however, he was obviously able to control his thoughts and emotions. This showed that this person had an extremely strong control over the Tao of killing. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Lin Feng sneered. He gave the order. The Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship shot out a dense barrage of giant spirit stone cannonballs. Next, the immortal runes on the Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship also awakened. Immortal runes vibrated and unleashed a destructive might that blasted towards Pang Tong. Humph! Pang Tong sneered. Extreme realm of killing. A cold voice suddenly sounded. Pang Tong unleashed an extremely heaven-defying technique. Extreme realm of killing. Millions of corpses. The moment Pang Tong's extreme killing realm was unleashed, a huge domain was formed with him as the center. That huge domain was condensed from endless killing intent. When the densely packed shells of spirit stones came crashing down, they couldn't even get close to Pang Tong. Bang, 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 bang. The densely packed spirit stone cannonballs exploded. Then, immortal runes attacked one after another. It was also blocked by the extreme realm of killing. The extreme realm of killing was truly terrifying. It actually blocked the double attack of the Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship. Kid, it's useless. In my opinion, your struggle is nothing but a desperate struggle. Pang Tong sneered as he walked over. This person was extremely proud. He didn't take Lin Feng seriously at all. His extreme realm of killing was exceptionally powerful. In addition, he was also a loose immortal expert. Therefore, he was extremely confident in himself. In his opinion, Lin Feng was nothing to be afraid of. Soon, Pang Tong rushed to the Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship. World of killing. Pang Tong's cold voice suddenly sounded. Endless killing intent condensed into a peerless edge. Then, it tore at the Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship's defensive restriction. A ripping sound was heard. The Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship's defensive restriction. It was directly torn apart. Then, Pang Tong rushed to the Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship. His deadly energy moved straight towards Lin Feng and enveloped him. He wanted to strangle Lin Feng under the terrifying power of the extreme realm of killing. Get out! Lin Feng looked at Pang Tong indifferently. He shouted coldly, like thunder rolling. Then Lin Feng brought out his domineering aura. Supreme domineering aura. White tiger domineering aura. Azure dragon domineering aura. Era domineering aura. The four domineering auras overlapped and blasted toward Pang Tong, who had boarded the Xianyuan ancient starry sky ship. Although Lin Feng's realm was indeed inferior to Pang Tong's, Lin Feng's domineering aura was too powerful. The four domineering auras combined. It directly blasted Pang Tong away. Swoosh. Then Lin Feng rushed out. The four domineering auras blasted toward Pang Tong again. Crack! Crack! The extreme realm of killing that Pang Tong had condensed began to collapse. The extreme realm of killing was an extremely heaven-defying attack. But against Lin Feng's domineering aura, it couldn't withstand a single blow. Break! Lin Feng shouted. The power of the four domineering auras completely erupted and then blasted fiercely on the extreme realm of killing. The extreme realm of killing. It directly shattered into pieces. Pang Tong was blasted away again. Pang Tong himself spat out a mouthful of blood due to the powerful power of the four domineering auras. Pang Tong was simply mad with hatred. Before this, he didn't put Lin Feng in his eyes at all. Now, he was actually injured by Lin Feng. And Lin Feng took advantage of the moment when Pang Tong was blasted away and quickly rushed toward Pang Tong. Soon, Lin Feng rushed to the front of Pang Tong. Then, he blasted a punch toward Pang Tong. Close combat! This was Lin Feng's favorite way of fighting. Pang Tong's face suddenly sank. His reaction was extremely fast. Facing Lin Feng's gratitude, he quickly threw a punch. Bang! The two sides collided fiercely. After taking Lin Feng's terrifying blow, Pang Tong was directly blasted away by Lin Feng. Barf! Pang Tong spat out a mouthful of blood again. You dare to kill me with your little cultivation? What a joke! Lin Feng sneered out loud and quickly charged toward Pang Tong. His attacks were endless, and Pang Tong only had the strength to defend himself. He couldn't fight back at all. Under Lin Feng's attacks, Pang Tong's injuries became more and more serious. Not long after, half of Pang Tong's body directly exploded, but his vitality was extremely tenacious. Even with such injuries, he didn't die. Lin Feng charged toward Pang Tong again, wanting to finish him off with a punch. But this time, when Lin Feng came in front of Pang Tong, he felt a terrifying aura. Lin Feng immediately retreated, and from Pang Tong's glabella, a death light beam shot out. The death light beam swept toward Lin Feng. After feeling the terrifying power of the death light beam, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. The death light beam was too terrifying, and he had to be careful. Otherwise, he might be in trouble. Chapter 43:88. The death beam that shot out from between Pang Tong's eyebrows should be Pang Tong's life-saving move. He wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice. Previously, Pang Tong was close to Lin Feng. As everyone knew, Lin Feng was almost invincible in close combat. So, facing Lin Feng's close combat attack, Pang Tong was almost killed by Lin Feng. Pang Tong had no other choice. That was why he used his life-saving move. Or else, he might have already been killed by Lin Feng. That death beam could take away someone's life. Lin Feng knew how powerful the death beam was. He hurriedly activated the Eyes of Death. The Eyes of Death shot out rays of death light. Those rays of death light swept over the death beam. In the end, the death beam was dissolved by the Eyes of Death. Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he had a countermeasure, or else that would be really dangerous. It's been a long time since I met an opponent like you. Great, great. Today, you can either kill me or be killed by me. Pang Tong's face suddenly showed a burst of incomparably excited expression. What the F***CK? What a freak! Seeing Pang Tong's excited expression, Lin Feng was speechless. This guy, his injuries were so serious, but he still had such an excited expression. Lin Feng had never seen such a perverted guy. Kid, I'm going to eat your flesh and drink your blood later. Pang Tong laughed sinisterly. Then, waves of terrifying fluctuations surged out from his body. That fluctuation, it caused the surrounding void to fluctuate violently. Lin Feng frowned. This guy seemed to want to resonate with heaven and earth. He wondered what kind of supernatural power he was using. Massacre world. Suddenly, a low voice was heard. Then the surrounding heaven and earth began to change violently. Darkness descended upon the world. Boundless killing intent permeated between heaven and earth. The entire world instantly turned into a dark world. This dark world emitted a sinister and terrifying aura. And this world of darkness was a world dominated by slaughter. It was as if Pang Tong had become the undying ruler of this world. He ruled over the life and death of all living beings. My world of slaughter has fused with the world. Now, this world has turned into a world of slaughter, and I am the strongest existence in this world. Boy, what do you have to fight me? Pang Tong sneered as he looked at Lin Feng. It was as if he was looking at a dead man. His eyes were filled with malevolence. 100,000, kill them all. Suddenly, Pang Tong shouted, "Next, in the massacre world, 100,000 rays of killing light condensed. Every beam of killing light contained extremely terrifying power. Now, 100,000 killing lights had gathered together. Then, it charged towards Lin Feng. It was hard to imagine just how terrifyingly powerful the might of 100,000 killing lights was. Lin Feng took out his god's armor. Then, he released 4 layers of haki to protect his body. Bang! 100,000 killing lights blasted out. It sent Lin Feng flying, although the 4 layers of haki and the sovereign armor dissolved most of the power. However, it couldn't dissolve all the power. Therefore, this terrifying attack had a huge impact on Lin Feng. He felt waves of pain all over his body. Entering the Tao through killing, it was indeed terrifying. There was no lack of geniuses in this world, and these geniuses cultivated some stronger Taos, and their combat power was absolutely heaven-defying. Obviously, Pang Tong was such a person. Pang Tong was a genius. He entered the Tao through killing, and his combat power was indeed terrifying. Of course, perhaps in terms of talent, there was still a big gap between Pang Tong and Lin Feng. However, Pang Tong's realm was high. Do you feel the aura of death? I really like the feeling of slowly toying with people to death. But don't worry, after I kill you, I will keep your head, because I want to take your head to report, but in the end, your head will still be mine. I like to hang the heads of powerful opponents in the secret room I built. In that secret room, there are many cultivators like you. At some point in time, they were all powerful opponents of mine, but they all died in my hands. I cut off their heads, and they became my spoils of war. Pang Tong said sinisterly. Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes, although this guy in front of him didn't go berserk. But obviously, entering the Tao through killing had affected him. It made him extremely cruel and perverted. Lin Feng said with a sneer, "It seems that you should be from the Qi family." Pang Tong said with a sneer, "You're quite smart, guessing who I am." "Hee hee, is there a need to guess? Those are the people I offended. They will definitely send people to deal with me. And you entered the Tao through killing. What's the most suitable place to nurture an expert who enters the Tao through killing? Of course, it's in the army. And the Eightai Heavenly King has tens of millions of cultivators under his command, and they are out fighting all year round. It's easy to guess your identity. Although you're entering the Tao through killing is powerful. If you want to kill me through killing, it's simply daydreaming. I, Lin Feng, roam the mortal world. If I don't have any ability, I wouldn't dare to step into the undying realm. Today, I'll let you have a taste of my ultimate technique." As his voice faded, Lin Feng stepped forward in the void. Then, he began to chant an incantation. "The great Tao of destiny, please descend the power of destiny. Let me use the power of destiny to destroy all the evil in this world and bring light back to the mortal world," as Lin Feng's incantation fell. Then, the powerful power of destiny descended from the sky. When the power of destiny merged with the massacre world, "Kacha-kacha" sounds rang out. The massacre world began to collapse. No, this can't be. After seeing this scene, Pang Tong couldn't accept it at all and couldn't help but roar. This was his final trump card. He had originally hoped to use this trump card to kill Lin Feng. But the ideal was beautiful. The reality was cruel. When the ideal was shattered, when faced with the bloody reality, Pang Tong couldn't accept it. He was completely hysterical. Bang! In the end, the massacre world that Pang Tong condensed collapsed. The power of destiny enveloped Pang Tong. He struggled in the power of destiny. Your fate has long been determined. Your fate can no longer be changed. Death is your final destination. You will turn into the dust of this world. Lin Feng's cold voice resounded between heaven and earth. He arrived in front of Pang Tong. He used his palm as a blade. Puchi, Pang Tong's head was chopped off by Lin Feng. Then, he soared into the sky. Fresh blood suddenly spurted out. Pang Tong's blood dyed the void a bewitching red. Chapter 43-89. Skywither City, City Lord Manor, Long Moxie, and the rest were guests in the City Lord Manor. They were waiting for Pang Tong to bring Lin Feng's head back to report on his mission. Long Moxie was still very confident in Pang Tong. Pang Tong's Tao of Slaughter was very terrifying. It was not something that ordinary people could contend against. With Pang Tong making a move, Lin Feng would definitely die. On this day, Chu Mo and Chu Xian were hosting a banquet to entertain Long Moxie and the rest. They also wanted to get closer to Long Moxie. After all, Long Moxie's master was the Eight-Eye Heavenly King. The Eight-Eye Heavenly King had always been deeply trusted by the Sky Emperor. Although Chu Mo and Chu Xian's grandfather were sworn brothers of the Sky Emperor, they were also existences with high authority and even ruled over a region. However, to be honest, their grandfather's position was definitely not as important as the Eight-Eye Heavenly King in the Sky Emperor's heart. The Sky Emperor was the ruler of the Central Empire. Their grandfather was a vassal outside. Would the ruler of a country have a better relationship with his trusted subordinates, or would he have a better relationship with a vassal outside? This was an obvious thing. Of course, this did not prevent Chu Mo and Chu Xian from getting closer to the Eight-Eye Heavenly King. If they could get closer to each other, it would be very beneficial for them. Qi Zimu's mood had been very bad. He drank a mouthful of wine, then said with a gloomy expression, "Pang Tong has already left for a while. Looking at the time, he should be back. But there's still no sign of him. I wonder how Pang Tong is now. Has that matter been settled?" Long Moxie said, "Young master, don't worry. Pang Tong is trustworthy. Young master just has to wait patiently." Just as Long Moxie finished speaking, a servant came in to report, "Young masters, someone handed a brocade box to the guard outside. This brocade box is for young Master Qi Zimu." "For me?" Qi Zimu had a puzzled expression. Xian waved his hand and said, "Bring the brocade box in and hand it to young Master Qi." Hearing that, the servant walked in carefully and handed the brocade box to Qi Zimu. Qi Zimu opened the brocade box. Then he jumped up. He looked at the brocade box with a face of horror. Inside the brocade box was the head of a cultivator, and that cultivator's head was not someone else's head. It was Pang Tong's head. Dead. Dead. Even Pang Tong was dead. Pang Tong entered the Tao through killing. His cultivation was extraordinary. Even Pang Tong had died at the hands of that little bastard Lin Feng. That little bastard Lin Feng is already so powerful. Chi Zimu's face was filled with resentment. He wished he could cut Lin Feng into 1,000 pieces. Long Emosia's face was gloomy. Zhang Sun, Long Emosia bellowed. Your subordinate is here. A thin cultivator stood up and replied. This person's aura was deep and terrifying. It was actually a human immortal expert. His cultivation base. It could be described as unfathomable. Human immortal realm. Naturally, it was not something that loose immortals could contend against. Capture him alive. I want to slice off this kid's flesh piece by piece. Long Emosia said coldly. This subordinate obeys. The cultivator, named Zhang Sun, quickly left after receiving the order. The ancient starship Xianyuan continued to fly above the mountain forest. Bibi, Dragon Rabbit, Little Black, and Little Dragon were playing in the cabin. Lin Feng was comprehending a part of the cultivation technique that he had obtained from the Saint Devil Emperor. This was the cultivation technique of the Tao of Time. It was too difficult to comprehend. It contained the profound meaning of time. It was simply obscure and difficult to understand. Even with Lin Feng's powerful comprehension, it was still quite difficult to comprehend. As time passed, Lin Feng finally gradually comprehended this cultivation technique. Unfortunately, there was only one section, and this section of the incantation. It was very difficult for Lin Feng to truly grasp the Tao of Time. However, while he was comprehending this section of the incantation, Lin Feng had a new understanding of the Tao of Time. If Lin Feng could obtain the complete Tao of Time in the future, then Lin Feng estimated that he would be able to comprehend the Tao of Time very quickly. Lin Feng had always dreamed of quickly grasping the Tao of Time. Lin Feng liked to combine different divine abilities the most. For example, the Great Karma Technique and the Great Reincarnation Technique. Time and space could also be combined together. Time and space were two kinds of laws that had no intersection at all. Space was a kind of Tao that could be seen but could not be touched. Time could not be seen or touched, but it was a kind of Tao that could be sensed. When time and space fused together, it would form the concept of time and space. And the concept of time and space was needless to say. It was definitely the most terrifying power system. The power of time and space transcended the restrictions of the plane and the world. Once it erupted, that would be too terrifying. The ancient starship Xianyuan continued to fly. More than 2 months had passed. Lin Feng was already very close to the Holy Spirit Forest. On this day, violent fluctuations came from the depths of the ancient forest. Then the sound of the heavenly Tao resounded. The great Tao resonated. Flowers rained down. Golden lotuses rose from the ground. When Lin Feng saw this scene, he was shocked. What kind of treasure had appeared? It actually caused such a big commotion. It was really unimaginable. He flew down from the ancient starship Xianyuan. Then he put away the ancient starship Xianyuan. Then he flew towards the depths of the forest. Not long after, Lin Feng saw a group of cultivators besieging a fatso and a little donkey. Lord Heavenly Donkey will stomp you bastards to death with a fart. Little Donkey had a fiery temper. This guy kept releasing poisonous gas, almost suffocating the group of cultivators besieging him and Fatso. Damn, aren't they Fatso and Little Donkey? Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. He hadn't seen Fatso and Little Donkey for a long time. He didn't expect that these two guys would run to the undying realm. Moreover, they were besieged by a group of experts. Fatso was holding a huge stone hammer. It was obviously a stone weapon. He wondered if it was the treasure Fatso had just obtained. Fatso was probably used to Little Donkey's poisonous gas. Therefore, it had formed an immunity function. Under the cover of Little Donkey's poisonous gas, Fatso wielded the stone hammer and displayed its might. It sent a cultivator flying with a single hammer. However, the other side had nearly 100 cultivators. It was obviously not easy to get rid of so many experts quickly. Damn, Fatso, this daddy will chop you into minced meat later. The leading cultivator's eyes flashed with dense killing intent. He held an azure dragon saber in his hand. He slashed at Fatso with the saber. Clang! Fatso hurriedly waved its stone hammer to block the opponent's terrifying blow. The two attacks fiercely collided. An earth-shattering sound rang out. At this time, a cultivator quietly circled behind Fatso. Then he took out a rope. The rope was like an immortal binding rope. While Fatso was distracted, it quickly wrapped around Fatso. Chapter 4390. Damn it, Fatso, be careful. Little Donkey could not help but shout when he saw this scene. Fatso turned around and saw that the treasure that looked like an immortal binding rope had already flown behind him and wrapped around his body. He was targeted by this terrifying existence with the azure dragon saber again. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. F***CK. It's over this time, Fatso wailed. If he was really tied up, he would become a live target. He would definitely die. Fatso also knew this, but Fatso was at his wit's end. At this moment of crisis, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. A large hand reached out from the void and grabbed the rope. Then, Lin Feng stepped out from the void and lightly tapped the rope with his other hand. The dense runes condensed and suppressed the rope directly. F***CK. Brother Feng has appeared. Little Donkey immediately shouted when he saw Lin Feng. Fatso also saw Lin Feng and was so excited that his entire body trembled. He was so moved that he almost cried. Fortunately, Lin Feng appeared in time. Otherwise, he would be in trouble. Brother, let's work together to kill these bastards first. Brother will bring you to a place. There's definitely a treasure that you'll be interested in at that place. Fatso shouted loudly. Oh, is that so? Now that you mention it, it really piques my interest. Lin Feng said with a smile. He waved his hand. 4 stone swords flew out. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The 4 stone swords flew out in all directions. The power of the stone swords was shocking. The 4 stone swords displayed their divine power. They killed one cultivator after another. The cultivator in the lead was an expert at the 7th level of the loose immortal realm. Seeing how powerful Lin Feng was, his expression was extremely gloomy. Let's go. The person shouted in a deep voice. We can't leave. Lin Feng sneered, wanting to rush over and deal with this guy together with Fatso. But at this moment, this guy threw a lightning pearl towards Lin Feng. When Lin Feng saw the lightning pearl, his heart jumped. Heaven-mending technique. Swish. Lin Feng instantly disappeared. In the next moment, the lightning pearl exploded. A loud bang was heard. The lightning pearl directly exploded the void. As for the group of cultivators, they took advantage of the explosion of the lightning bead to quickly leave. Lin Feng appeared 200 meters away. Seeing the crack in the void, the corner of Lin Feng's mouth couldn't help but twitch. This was the undying realm. The law of space here was even more powerful. It was not an easy task to tear open the void of the undying realm. And the explosion, just now, the explosion of the void. It was hard to imagine just how terrifying the power of the lightning pearl was. Luckily, Lin Feng was vigilant. He left. This is the heavenly pearl. It's something refined by an alchemist. Its power is extremely heaven-defying. I didn't expect this guy to have such a treasure. Fatso said with lingering fear. There were alchemists in the mortal world, but there were fewer of them. There were even fewer high-level alchemists. An alchemist who could refine something like the heavenly pearl. It was probably impossible to find one in the mortal world. Lin Feng also had a look of lingering fear. Then he withdrew his mind. Then he looked at Fatso and Little Donkey and said with a smile, "It's good that we're all fine. When did you guys come to the Undying Realm?" Little Donkey grinned and said, "We've been in the Undying Realm for more than 20 years. Oh, right, we saw a few of your subordinates." "My subordinates? Are you talking about Duzu and the others?" Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. Back then, he was separated from Duzu, the evil sovereign holy sage, and the two ghost emperors. He hadn't seen them since. However, Lin Feng had telepathic connection with them and knew that they weren't dead. He just didn't know where they were. "That's right, it's these four guys. We did something big before, and then we were hunted down. So we were separated," Little Donkey said. "Did you do something big? What did you guys do?" Lin Feng asked, puzzled. About 10 years ago, the Black Sand Region's region lord was celebrating his birthday. Many people were paying tribute to the Black Sand Region's region lord. The few of us sneaked into Black Sand City, then thought of a way to sneak into the Black Sand Region's region lord's residence and stole a lot of his tributes. Little Donkey grinned. "Damn, you guys are awesome." Lin Feng couldn't help but give them a thumbs up. These guys were really gutsy, stealing tributes from the Black Sand Region's region lord. It really wasn't easy for them to be alive until now. Fatso grinned. "Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time. If we had more time, we would have gotten more good stuff. I did something big back then, and in 10 years, my cultivation has broken through to the Emperor realm. Perhaps it won't be long before I can break through to the itinerant immortal realm." Although Fatso looked sloppy, Fatso's talent was actually very strong. Although he was only at the Emperor realm when he fought with the 7th Firmament itinerant immortal realm expert, he wasn't at a disadvantage. From this, one could see how much of a freak Fatso was. "Damn, Fatso, you're getting cocky again. Your cultivation is nothing compared to Big Brother things." Little Donkey said bluntly, "Of course I'm not as freakish as Little Feng." Fatso grinned. "You guys never saw Duzu and the others after that?" Lin Feng asked. "No, and I don't know where they went." Fatso said. Lin Feng said, "It's good that they're in the Undying Realm. No matter where they are, we'll meet again sooner or later. By the way, how did you guys get into a fight?" An immortal treasure flew out from the depths of the ancient forest. "I got it, but those people bumped into it. That's why they wanted to kill us and steal the treasure." Fatso said, "Immortal treasure? What treasure? Could it be the stone hammer you used earlier?" Lin Feng asked. "That's right, it's that stone hammer. It's a stone tool, so it's priceless. Most importantly, it suits Lord Fatty's temperament very well." Fatso said proudly. "What kind of temperament do you have?" Little Donkey exposed him bluntly. "Damn, Donkey, are you looking for a beating?" Fatso glared at Little Donkey. Lin Feng said, "Stop bickering. Let's get down to business. You said you're bringing me to a place. Where are you bringing me?" Fatso said mysteriously. "You see this stone hammer? This stone hammer flew out from that place." Lin Feng was shocked when he heard Fatso's words. The place Fatso was talking about was absolutely shocking. Author's note, 7th update, please vote. The progenitor of the Sovereign Emperor clan has released his narration. Everyone, search for Wang Zai Old Mantu on WeChat and follow his account. You'll be able to see the narration of various characters. Chapter 4391. Lin Feng followed Fatso and Little Donkey into the depths of the forest. Along the way, they talked about the many things that had happened to them over the years. Both sides sighed endlessly. Fortunately, no matter how many years had passed, their friendship had not changed. Finally, they arrived at an area shrouded in grayish-brown fog. This area was gloomy and eerie. In the forest, there were white bones everywhere. It looked like a burial forest. Be careful. This place is called the Suicide Forest. There's an extremely strange force that will lead people to commit suicide. Fatso reminded, Suicide Forest? There's such a place. Lin Feng could not help but feel apprehensive. Little Donkey nodded and said, Yes, this Suicide Forest is an extremely strange place. Cultivators with weak willpower who come here are simply seeking death. Fortunately, our willpower is strong enough. Therefore, we don't have to worry about the Suicide Forest's influence on us. Fatso said, I don't know who went crazy after coming in, kissing a rock here, and there while shouting, Little darling, I love you, I'll treat you well for the rest of my life. Bang! As soon as Fatso finished speaking, Little Donkey sent him flying with a hoof. Lin Feng rolled his eyes. It seemed that Little Donkey had been affected by the strange force in the Suicide Forest. That was why he did such an indecent thing. Donkey, on the other hand, was a rather prideful fellow. Now, Fatso had exposed Little Donkey's past. How could Little Donkey tolerate that? Hey, you're really an ungrateful donkey. If it wasn't for Lord Fatty, you'd have become a dead donkey. Fatso got up from the ground and howled in pain. Little Donkey's attack was not light. Damn Fatso, you're still talking? I'll kick you to death. Little Donkey roared angrily. He charged toward Fatso and raised his hoof to kick Fatso. Hurry up and stop. Something doesn't seem right. Lin Feng's expression suddenly became solemn, and he couldn't help but shout softly. Big Brother Feng, what did you find? Little Donkey asked softly after calming down. The fat guy also looked at Lin Feng. He didn't understand what was going on. Quick, let's hide. I feel danger approaching. Lin Feng said in a deep voice as he flew towards a giant tree not far away. Then he hid in the dense foliage of the giant tree. Fatso and Little Donkey also rushed forward and hid with Lin Feng. Not long after, a sinister and terrifying aura emanated from the depths of the cave. Then, a large amount of ghost chi began to surge. Lin Feng had never seen such dense ghost chi before. The aura emitted by the surging ghost chi made his hair stand on end. Not long after, Lin Feng saw 7 cultivators wearing black robes and bamboo hats walking over from the boundless ghost chi. The void around the 7 cultivators was slightly distorted. The void of the undying realm was so sturdy, but wherever these people walked, the void would actually distort. It was hard to imagine how terrifying these people's combat strength was. They're not humans. Soon, Lin Feng discovered that something was wrong. He realized that these 7 terrifying existences did not seem to be humans. To be precise, these 7 terrifying existences, they seemed to be 7 undead. There was no way to change the aura of death. It was the aura of death that only the dead would emit. That aura of death was so powerful and terrifying, it gave people a kind of creepy feeling. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. He didn't know what kind of existence these guys were, and Lin Feng found that their walking route was extremely strange. The 7 terrifying existences were actually in a row. They raised their feet and landed in the same place. There were clearly 7 of them walking together, but it was as if they were one person. Lin Feng didn't dare to make any sound. Fatso and Little Donkey were the same. They were not ordinary people and knew how terrifying those 7 existences were. Therefore, they didn't dare to alarm those 7 terrifying existences at all. If those guys were alarmed, who knew what terrifying things would happen? The 7 terrifying existences were extremely fast, and it didn't take long for them to leave. And the sinister ghost Chi that filled the forest also disappeared. Lin Feng couldn't help but let out a long breath. It was really too dangerous just now. Fortunately, those terrifying existences didn't discover them. I didn't expect the ghosts of the Undying Realm to be so terrifying. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. Fatso said, "They're not ordinary ghosts. They're the legendary 7 ghost fiends." That's right, the 7 ghost fiends. Damn it, I didn't expect to meet them here, but we're pretty lucky. We weren't discovered by the 7 ghost fiends. If we were, who knows how many terrifying things would have happened. The donkey also had a look of lingering fear on its face. This was the first time Lin Feng had heard of the 7 ghost fiends. He couldn't help but ask, curiously, what kind of existence are these 7 ghost fiends? Judging from your reactions, they should be extremely terrifying, right? Little Donkey said, "Terrifying, terrifying. Of course they're terrifying. Legend has it that the 7 ghost fiends are 7 terrifying beings who were cursed after they died. The curse didn't dissipate, and the power of the curse condensed them into 7 undying existences. Although they can live forever in this world, they will suffer endless pain and torture. Obviously, no one is willing to suffer that kind of pain and torture. Many people would rather die to be free from that kind of pain and torture." The 7 ghost fiends resisted the terrifying curse time and time again. In the end, the terrifying curse and the 7 ghost fiends came to an extremely strange and terrifying agreement. At this point, Little Donkey paused. "Agreement? What agreement?" Lin Feng asked curiously. Little Donkey said, "It's said that the agreement has something to do with reincarnation." "What do you mean?" Lin Feng continued asking. Little Donkey said, "If any one of the 7 ghost fiends can kill a person, they'll be freed. They'll then enter the 6 paths of reincarnation and be reincarnated. The one who's killed will become a new ghost fiend and replace the one who killed him, becoming one of the 7 ghost fiends." "Oh, there's such a thing?" After hearing Little Donkey's explanation, Lin Feng couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. If what Little Donkey said was true, they would have been dead if they'd been discovered by the 7 ghost fiends. The 3 of them would have replaced 3 of the ghost fiends and become one of the 7 ghost fiends. Chapter 4392. Fatso said, "Actually, I've always thought that the 7 ghost demons were just a legend. After all, there are too many legends in this world. It's normal for there to be one more legend. But now I know that the 7 ghost demons aren't just a legend. The 7 ghost demons actually exist in this world." Little Donkey said with lingering fear, "Fortunately, we didn't encounter the 7 ghost demons the first time we came here. If we had met the 7 ghost demons that time, who knows what would have happened? This time, it's all thanks to Big Brother Feng's powerful senses that he sensed danger ahead of time. Otherwise, the 3 of us would have been in deep trouble." Lin Feng said, "It was indeed too dangerous. However, I'm curious. Do the 7 ghost demons travel aimlessly, or do they have a purpose in mind?" Fatso said, "It's said that the 7 ghost demons are bound by a curse. They need to walk continuously, and when they walk, they will be punished by the curse. At that time, the 7 ghost demons will be in incomparable pain, and they will wish they were dead until someone bumps into them. Only then will the 7 ghost demons stop. This is the time when the 7 ghosts are the most excited. This is because the 7 ghosts are about to kill anyone they encounter. Then they will be free." Lin Feng said, "The world is so big, and there are so many strange things. To think that there are still terrifying existences like the 7 ghost demons. Now that I think about it, I still find it inconceivable. I hope we won't encounter such terrifying existences again. The three of them did not stay for long. They continued to travel deeper into the forest, but they were much more careful than before. Not long ago, the 7 ghost demons had appeared in the forest. Who knew if an even more terrifying existence would appear later? They had to be careful. In the end, Lin Feng and the others arrived at a valley in the depths of the forest. There was a dilapidated stone hall in the valley. The restrictions around the stone hall were extremely terrifying. Lin Feng had the impression that the deployment spells there were terrifying. The stone hall was very large. It occupied about 7 or 8 mu of land. However, almost half of the stone hall had collapsed. The other half was still in good condition. Why is there a stone hall here? Lin Feng looked at the stone palace in surprise. It was really strange that a stone palace had appeared in this place. I'm not sure, but this stone palace is too extraordinary. Even though half of it has already collapsed, it's still incomparably extraordinary. Previously, we accidentally came here and happened to see the birth of the stone hammer. There must be other magical treasures in the stone hall. Fatso said. Clearly, Fatso wanted to enter the stone temple to search for other treasures. Lin Feng also had this plan. Such an extraordinary stone palace. If there were other treasures inside, he would be rich. Little Donkey said, Big Brother Feng, you're proficient in formations. Is it possible to break the formation here? Lin Feng said, I need to study it. The array here is very complicated. Although it has been dilapidated for a long time, it is still terrifying. Hee, Little Feng, you can do it. If you can't break the formation, it will be too difficult to find someone who can, Fatso said with a grin. He trusted Lin Feng very much. Little Donkey also shouted, That's right, that's right. Big Brother Feng is the best in the world when it comes to formations. Big Brother Feng will definitely be able to break the formation here. Lin Feng naturally knew what he was capable of. Therefore, when he heard Fatso and Little Donkey's praises, Lin Feng remained very calm. He didn't feel complacent at all. Then, he began to study the formation here. It was indeed too brilliant. It would be extremely difficult for Lin Feng to break it. However, the formation here had been dilapidated for too long. This gave Lin Feng a chance to break it. If it was a complete formation, Lin Feng would have a hard time breaking it. However, the grand formation here was incomplete. In the next few days, Lin Feng continued to study the formation. In the end, he decided to take action. Lin Feng discovered that there was a huge gap in this formation. The formation here was more damaged. Therefore, Lin Feng set up more than 10 powerful formations in this gap. Lin Feng planned to use his own formation to suppress the formation in this gap. Lin Feng discovered that the formation here was the most damaged, and it had lost contact with the formations on the left and right sides. In other words, if Lin Feng were to break the formation here, there wouldn't be a situation where the entire formation would be affected. Therefore, breaking the formation here was the best choice. Lin Feng activated the formation he had set up after the power of more than 10 formations was activated. Then, more than 10 formations erupted with powerful power. All of them surged towards the formation in front of the gap. Then, they began to suppress the formation in the gap. The formation in the gap was activated and then launched a counterattack. It was just as Lin Feng had guessed. The formation in the gap was completely disconnected from the formations on the left and right sides. Therefore, after the formation here was activated, it didn't cause the entire formation to counterattack. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng's face finally revealed a trace of relief. Then, Lin Feng also began to use the formation cracking technique to help the formation he had set up to break the formation in the gap. About 2 hours passed. The formation in the gap was finally broken by Lin Feng. Awesome. Awesome. I've long said that Brother Feng's formation skills are the best in the world. It's true, Little Donkey said excitedly. Haha, let's go inside and take a look. Fatso's eyes were shining. Lin Feng said, we still don't know what's going on inside. We can't be careless. Be careful, especially in this kind of place. There's nothing wrong with being careful. After hearing Lin Feng's reminder, Fatso and Little Donkey hurriedly nodded. Then Lin Feng and the other two walked towards the dilapidated stone hall in the depths. They arrived outside the stone hall and then pushed open the huge stone door that was 70 to 80 meters tall. Then a rotten smell came from inside. After the smell was almost gone, Lin Feng, Fatso, and Little Donkey entered the hall together. After entering the hall, the first thing that caught their eyes was a huge stone Buddha. This stone Buddha was an old monk. He was thin but had a solemn appearance. At first glance, it was obvious that he was an eminent monk. Who is this old monk? Lin Feng frowned. Fatso said, it seems to be the Dipankara Buddha of Buddhism. He. This fat brother is really experienced and knowledgeable. He actually recognized the stone statue of the Dipankara Buddha at a glance. This little girl is impressed. At this moment, a delicate and charming voice came from behind the stone Buddha. Chapter 43:93. As the voice faded, a woman walked out from behind the stone Buddha statue. She wore a long pink dress and was tall and charming. Her face was so delicate that it could be broken by the wind, charming and flirtatious. At this very moment, a pair of beautiful eyes were staring unblinkingly at Fatty. Lin Feng and Little Donkey were puzzled by the sudden appearance of this woman. When did she come here? Could it be that he came in before them? If that was the case, this woman's methods were truly terrifying. If she didn't come in before them, there was only one possibility. This woman had always been in this stone temple. If that was the case, it was even more terrifying. At this moment, Fatso didn't overthink things like Lin Feng and Little Donkey. He heard this delicate and charming woman call him Brother Fatty. Fatso's bones were about to go soft. Fatso's dream was to bring a fairy home and make her his wife. Back then, when he joined the reincarnation immortal sect with Lin Feng, he had already set this dream and goal. Now, more than 100 years had passed. Fatso still hadn't achieved his goal. Now, Fatso was mesmerized by this woman in front of him. Little Donkey said, check out this woman's cultivation state. Lin Feng nodded. White mist appeared in front of Lin Feng, blocking Lin Feng's front. Then Lin Feng opened his eye of origin, heavenly demon snake eye, and looked at the woman. However, he discovered that this woman was indeed very beautiful. There was nothing unusual about her. You'll arouse disgust when you observe others like this. Do you know that? Suddenly, the woman looked at Lin Feng and said, unhappily. Lin Feng said after he retracted his divine ability, more importantly, you're not human, The woman's gaze turned cold. Of course, Lin Feng wasn't scolding her. Although Lin Feng could not see through the woman's true identity, Lin Feng knew that she was not a human cultivator. There were so many races in the universe. Lin Feng didn't know which race this woman was from, but she was very strong. There was no doubt about it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to enter the stone palace. Brother Fatty, I just want to have a good chat with you. I don't want to see this person. The woman said sweetly. Fatso was overjoyed. Because Fatso's image was not good, it was not popular with women. Therefore, when he saw such a delicate and charming beauty, he actually ignored Lin Feng. Instead, he was very interested in him. This made Fatso very proud. Fatso felt that it was time to restore his masculinity. He looked at Lin Feng and Little Donkey and said, Big Brother Feng, you and Little Donkey should go in and look for treasures first. I want to have a long talk with this beauty. Lin Feng rolled his eyes. Fatso couldn't even lift his feet when he saw Beauty, and he was even acting so gentlemanly. He even used words like, have a long talk. Lin Feng only wanted to say 4 words to Fatso. I'm convinced. Understand this damned Fatso's unbearable thirst. Little Donkey said. Damn, Donkey, what are you saying? Fatso glared fiercely at Little Donkey. This was the time when Fatso wanted to restore his masculinity. Before he rode his horse, he wanted to save face the most. Therefore, Little Donkey did not refute Fatso. Instead, he walked inside with Lin Feng. Brother Fatty, come to me. I want to take a good look at Brother Fatty. The woman continued to say, coquettishly. Then she stuck out her tongue and licked her seductive red lips. Her seductive eyes kept casting coquettish glances at Fatso. Hee, baby, no, fairy, I'm coming. Fatso opened his mouth wide and ran towards the delicate and seductive woman. He couldn't wait to hug the beauty. Now, Fatso's heart was about to explode. But at this moment, a large hand reached out from behind and grabbed Fatso. Fatso turned his head. He realized that it was Lin Feng. Lin Feng had returned. Little Lin Feng, why are you back? Could it be that you want to snatch my woman? Damn, you have so many women, and all of them are peerless beauties. I've lived for so long, and only one delicate beauty is interested in me. You have the nerve to steal her? Stay where you are, or I'll fall out with you. Fatso bared his teeth and shouted. You've really been blinded by greed. I'm afraid this woman is not simple. Lin Feng said, why do you have to obstruct other people's feelings? The woman looked like she was about to cry. Seeing her like this, the fatty's heart ached terribly. Little Lin Feng, let go of me, or I'll take action. Fatso said, angrily. Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. This damn Fatso was really infatuated. He had just left with Little Donkey, but soon he turned back. This was because Lin Feng noticed that something was wrong. Lin Feng indeed didn't notice anything strange about this woman, but this showed the root of the problem. This woman, everything was too perfect. There were no flaws. But in Lin Feng's opinion, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that this woman was too enthusiastic about Fatso. And wasn't she a little too enthusiastic? Of course. There was no lack of lovers in this world who fell in love at first sight. However, even if it was love at first sight, it was difficult to be as enthusiastic as this woman, right? What's more, many women were more virtuous and honest. But that woman, she behaved like a prostitute. Lin Feng really couldn't understand. Of course, it was also possible that that woman's personality was indeed like that. She had indeed taken a liking to Fatty, and she was indeed an extremely passionate woman. But what if that wasn't the case? What if she had other motives? Lin Feng had experienced a lot over the years, so he had always been more cautious. He liked to think of things in the worst way. A person without foresight would have immediate worries. So Lin Feng quickly turned back and grabbed Fatso. Little Donkey kicked Fatso fiercely, and then scolded, Damn Fatso, are you F***ing inhumane? It's just a woman, and a woman of unknown origin. You actually fell out with Brother Feng because of such a woman. Even I feel embarrassed to say that I know you. Fatso smiled bitterly and said, I was wrong. Little Feng, don't be angry with me. Lin Feng patted Fatso's shoulder and said, I'm not angry because I understand you. After all, no woman likes you. Now that a woman seems to be interested in you, how can you not be agitated? F***, why does it sound like you're mocking me? What do you mean by no woman likes me? Fatso shouted gloomily. Brother Fatty, I didn't offend your two friends, did I? Why are they always targeting me? The delicate and charming female cultivator said aggrievedly. She began a new round of seduction for Fatso. Above gods and demons, recognize me as your big brother, and I'll introduce you to the strengths and weaknesses of women. It's a very good book. Everyone, go and take a look. Psst. Chapter 4394. Fatso was much more clear-headed now. He looked at the woman and said, Fairy, come over here. Fat brother will bring you inside to look for treasures. Fat brother, I don't like treasures. I just want to be with you. The woman said coquettishly, after hearing the woman's words. Lin Feng and Little Donkey were speechless. This woman's skin was too thick. She could really say anything. Where was the modesty of a woman? I have someone by my side. We'll be together under the moonlight. Let's talk about it after we leave the stone hall. When the time comes, Fat brother will bring you to fly, Fatso said with a wretched expression. Fat brother, are you really not coming over? If you don't listen to me like this, then I'm not the right person to trust. Then there won't be any future between us. The woman still spoke coquettishly. Fatso was perverted, but he wasn't stupid. Now, Fatty finally realized what was going on. He felt that this woman was indeed a little abnormal, although he didn't know what was wrong with her. But presumably, this woman must be hiding some secrets. Perhaps she was hiding some unknown motives. So after hearing the woman's words, Fatso said with a righteous expression, Fairy, don't be angry. A man should look at the big picture. When Fat brother obtains the treasures, I'll apologize to you. Let's go. Lin Feng waved his hand and wanted to leave with Fatso and Little Donkey. However, at this moment, boundless Chi surged out from the woman's body. You can't leave. You can't leave. You can't leave. Suddenly, the woman, who was originally very delicate and charming, let out a sharp and ear-piercing scream, and her body began to rot. Not long after, her body completely rotted. It emitted a foul stench. Her fingernails were 1/2 meter long. She flew towards Lin Feng and the other two. Holy shit, corpse transformation. After seeing this scene, Lin Feng couldn't help but exclaim speechlessly. The woman who had bewitched Fatso was actually a zombie. It was simply too disgusting. Ha 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 ha, Fatso, your lover is so beautiful. Little Donkey laughed. He had a gloating expression on his face. Fatso's face turned green. He almost vomited. The rotten corpse that the woman had transformed into couldn't rush out because a golden light shield had formed around the stone Buddha statue and extended 20 meters outwards. The carrion touched the golden light shield. Suddenly, a sizzling sound could be heard. The body of a rotting corpse. They were all burning intensely. The rotting corpse was severely injured. He had no choice but to retreat quickly. So that Buddha statue is used to imprison zombies. Little Donkey said. At this moment, the zombie turned back into a peerless beauty. It looked more comfortable this way. What the hell are you? You were actually able to escape my detection? Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at the woman. The woman's expression was indifferent. She didn't pay any attention to Lin Feng. Suppress her, Lin Feng said. He decided to attack the woman. Fatso and Little Donkey nodded. The 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram, the ancient Buddha skeleton, and the Buddhist treasure cassock were extremely harmful to the woman. Therefore, Lin Feng took out the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram, the ancient Buddha skeleton, and the Buddhist treasure cassock. The Buddhist treasure cassock was worn on the ancient Buddha skeleton. The ancient Buddha skeleton looked even more sacred. The 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram flew toward the woman. The light shield formed by the stone Buddha statue was only effective against Een spirits and evil beings. It had no effect on other living beings or magic treasures. Therefore, the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram instantly passed through the light shield formed by the stone Buddha statue. Then, it slashed toward the woman. The sharp claws on the woman's hands were her best weapon. Her claws clawed at the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram. At this moment, Fatso took out his stone hammer. The donkey, on the other hand, took out a peachwood sword. The ancient Buddha skeleton also awakened at this moment. He wore the Buddhist treasure cassock and walked toward the woman. With so many attacks coming at her at the same time, the woman's expression changed drastically. Her sharp claws blocked the 3 pure 8 trigrams diagram's attack. Then, she wanted to withdraw and retreat, but it was too late. The ancient Buddha skeleton attacked. The stone hammer smashed down. The peachwood sword slashed down. All of them attacked the woman. The woman first clashed with the ancient Buddha skeleton's palm and was directly sent flying. Her body was still in midair, but it had already turned into a rotten corpse. Then the stone hammer ruthlessly smashed on her body. Who knew how many bones in her body were broken? The peachwood sword also came and pierced through her body. The rotten corpse fell in front of the stone Buddha statue. She screamed loudly, "Spare me! Spare me! Don't kill me! I beg you to spare me. Actually, I'm also a pitiful person." Lin Feng sneered and said, "You're harming people here, and you have the nerve to say that you're a pitiful person? You're an unpardonable evil demon. How can I let you continue to stay in the human world and bring disaster to the world?" The rotten corpse said, "Young master, please listen to me. If you really think that I should be killed, then it won't be too late to kill me." Hearing that, Lin Feng did not continue to attack the rotten corpse. She might want to maintain her beautiful image, so she turned into a normal person again. "This can't be your appearance when you were alive, right?" Fatso asked. "This is indeed my appearance when I was alive." The woman suddenly shed tears. "Io, what the hell? You looked so delicate and charming when you were alive. How did you die here? How could you become like this after death? Isn't it too tragic? What a waste of resources." Fatso wailed. After hearing Fatso's words, the woman was even more sad. "Tell me about yourself." Lin Feng said. Lin Feng looked at the woman and said. The woman adjusted her emotions and slowly said, "My name is Yu Xiaolian. I was originally a disciple of the Seven Stars sect." "Wait a minute," Lin Feng said. The woman looked at Lin Feng in confusion, not knowing why Lin Feng interrupted her. "What kind of power is the Seven Stars sect?" Lin Feng asked. The woman said, "The Seven Stars sect is one of the top sects in the Middle Holy Prefecture." "Okay, continue," Lin Feng said. The woman continued. "I joined the Seven Stars sect with a senior brother when we were young. Our relationship with our parents was very good, so we were engaged when we were young. We cultivated together in the Seven Stars sect, and when we reached a certain level of cultivation, we planned to get married. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?" At this point, the woman's tears fell like rain. "Tell me quickly what happened," Little Donkey asked anxiously. He especially liked listening to stories. The woman continued. "He was a very competitive person, but his talent was average. Once, he went out and met a devil outside. That devil said that he could help him improve his cultivation." Chapter 43, 95. After he heard it, he was naturally very happy, so he followed that devil and learned the devil technique. His cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. However, how could the devil technique be so easy to learn? Once you go astray, There is no way out. The devil technique he learned requires him to constantly devour the blood of others to increase his strength. So, he began to ambush and kill experts outside and devour their blood. For a time, the people outside were in a panic. Someone sent a letter for help to the higher-ups of the Seven Stars sect. So the higher-ups of the Seven Stars sect sent experts to find the devil and kill him. So he returned to the sect and went into hibernation. There is no way to suppress his devil technique. The more he suppressed it, the worse the situation would be. He suffered a backlash in the sect and then secretly attacked the disciples of the sect. But this kind of thing could not be hidden at all. Soon, the higher-ups of the sect found out. The sect was furious and captured him, wanting to use the cruelest punishment to punish him. Kill him. I couldn't bear it. I secretly let him go. He said that he was willing to change for me and would definitely restrain the devil in his body. He asked me if I was willing to leave with him. I was blinded by love. So I chose to go with him. My family was implicated and was exterminated by many angry forces. It was I who implicated my family. My parents, brothers, and sisters all died tragically in the disaster of extermination. I have let them down. Later on, he brought me to see the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord told him that as long as he offered me to him, he would be able to learn even more powerful demonic arts. Thus, he offered me to the Demon Lord without any hesitation. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. It was truly a tragedy. This woman was very pitiful when she was alive. However, as the saying goes, a pitiful person must have something hateful. Back then, she knew that the man had turned into a heinous devil, but she still let him go. This was the most hateful thing, and all her family members died, tragically because of this, as well as her miserable fate after that. At this time, the foreshadowing had already been laid. Perhaps this was the so-called evil that one brought upon oneself was the hardest to bear. "How did you die?" Little Donkey asked curiously. "I was tortured to death, but my resentment is too strong. Turn into an evil corpse. That devil brought a stone Buddha from somewhere and placed it here. He used the stone Buddha to imprison me. He said that I was his person when I was alive, and after I died, I was also his ghost. Speaking of which, the woman screamed. Even though countless years had passed, she was still in great pain. Her life was very tragic. If she had died, then so be it. But after she died, she turned into an evil corpse. Moreover, she still remembered everything. Thus, for countless years, she had been enduring endless pain and torment. After the woman calmed down a little, Lin Feng asked, "What happened to that demon in the end?" "I don't know. Many, many years ago. He never walked out of the palace again. I don't know if it's because something went wrong with their cultivation, but it's all too common for these demonic Tao cultivators to go berserk. Maybe this guy has already died from chi deviation. If he died like that, it would be too easy for him." Lin Feng, Fatso, and Little Donkey looked at each other. In other words, that demon was still in the palace? It was possible that he was dead. It was also possible that he wasn't dead. "Come, let's go in and take a look," Lin Feng said. He had always been bold and skillful. Fatso and Little Donkey nodded. These two guys were also people who were not afraid of anything. As the saying goes, wealth comes from danger. They wanted wealth, but they did not dare to take risks. In this world, was there such a good thing? Of course not. Lin Feng, Fatso, and Little Donkey carefully walked inside. They went around the collapsed part of the palace and went all the way into the depths. The three of them passed through one palace after another and opened one stone door after another. Many of the palaces had already decayed corpses, and they were all women's corpses. It seems that the demon had harmed many beautiful flowers back then, Fatso said with gritted teeth. Lin Feng said, the people of the devil Dao have always been like this. Now, you know why there are more men than women. You still have the nerve to say that. You also have many beautiful wives, okay? Fatso said with envy and jealousy. Finally, they arrived at the deepest part of the palace. There were still restrictions on the huge stone door that had not dissipated. Lin Feng began to study these restrictions. The restrictions here were not ordinary, and they were very powerful. Fortunately, Lin Feng's methods were powerful. After spending about 10 days, he broke the restrictions on the stone door. Then, together with Fatso and Little Donkey, he pushed open the stone door. Then, they entered the palace in the deepest part of the palace. After entering the palace, Lin Feng saw that there were 2 cultivators standing in the palace. One of the cultivators was holding a stone sword and piercing the other cultivator's chest. Then, the stone sword nailed the cultivator to the wall. The other cultivator was holding a stone hammer in his left hand while his right hand pierced through the other cultivator's chest. The stone hammer in the cultivator's hand was exactly the same as the stone hammer in Fatso's hand. It seemed that the stone hammers were a pair. The left side of the palace had already collapsed. The collapsed area seemed to lead to another palace. Could it be that the stone hammer in Fatso's hand flew from the collapsed area to the other palace, and then flew out from the other palace's ruins? That was very possible. After Lin Feng entered the palace, his gaze was fixed on the stone sword. Lin Feng's eyes could not help but reveal a burning gaze. A stone sword. It was actually a stone sword. This was not an ordinary stone sword. It was one of the 36 stone swords. Lin Feng hadn't thought that he would be able to find a stone sword here. I was wondering why the stone hammer's power was so hard to release. It turns out that the stone hammers are a pair. The power can only be released when the stone hammers are swung together. Fatso grinned. Little Donkey said, the woman outside doesn't seem to be telling the truth. Lin Feng nodded. Indeed, the woman did not tell the complete truth, because the 2 of them were obviously injured in the battle. In the end, they died. Almost half of the stone palace had collapsed. It was also caused by the battle. With such a big commotion, how could the woman outside not know? She had previously told Lin Feng, Fatso, and Little Donkey that this demon might have died in the palace because of qi deviation. Obviously, this was an excuse to deceive Lin Feng and the other 2. However, Lin Feng did not know why the woman wanted to deceive them.